break the stratosphere towards the heavens. We'll be on our way into the atmosphere with cosmic presence. We will light the way. Oh, we're shooting stars in the night. Oh, we're shooting stars in the night.
We're floating in the dark. Take my hand and we'll combine our sparks. Watch as we soar together, you and I, as we make our getaway into the sky.
We're shooting stars in the night. Oh, we're shooting stars in the night. Like meteors, we light up the sky with magic. Like meteors, we light up the sky with magic. Light up the we're shooting stars in the night. Oh, we're shooting stars in the night.
Hello there. I am sorry I made you wait. And then you had to wait in silence because the music ended. Hey. Fire. Can you guys hear the campfire on the beach? Because I'm not hearing it at all. I don't know what I've done. I tried to use voice meter and I did something wrong and the audio wouldn't go through it right. Okay, as long as you can hear it, that's what matters. You know what? I bet I know why I can't hear it. I bet I turned off monitoring like an idiot. No, it says monitor and output. I just can't hear it. Well, okay, as long as you can hear it, that is all that matters. Have I even got my headphone in the right jack? Because it says headphones 100%. Okay, now I'm worried that I'm gonna like deafen myself. I've screwed something up horribly. Let's try and maybe get the whole system on the right volume. Damn those birds, how dare they? This is really weird that wait. Am I deaf in one ear? Maybe I've broken these headphones already. Yeah, I am not hearing any sounds through. Wait, maybe? Nope, nothing is coming through my headphones. That is strange. Now I'm worried because I'm not going to be able to hear the audio. Open up settings, damn it. No. Oh well. Why would I need to hear what we're doing? No, I can't hear you. I can't hear you clapping. Hopefully I'll be able to hear the movie. Because that's kind of important. That is important. And the movie that we are going to watch tonight is called The Patchwork Girl of Oz. And I don't know if that story is part of Ozma of Oz. No, I'm not deaf because I can hear my computer humming and I can hear myself talking. I've just somehow... These are new headphones, so it might be that... I don't know. I don't know what's wrong with them. I guess I could go look for the other pair that I usually use. Alright, well, when I start the movie, if I still can't hear anything from the movie, then I will stop it and go look for the other pair of headphones. Oh, wait, the other pair of headphones is sitting right here next to me. Durr! I did grab them both. Let me change headphones and see if that makes a difference. Okay, yeah, it was the headphones. They work fine with my phone, but I guess they're not strong enough to pick up the beach and the fire. So I'm not deaf. I should post it a couple other Discords, huh? Yeah. Let's let some more people know to come and join us. We need more people in here. We need more friends. And I can go to this Discord. And I will get some people's. So how are you doing? I know we were talking a little bit early, but how are you doing? More friends. That's right, we need more friends. People in here. Yeah, we are going to be finishing Ozma of Oz. I was going to say I should change the title on the screen, but we are going to be reading that eventually after we watch our movie. Oh, yeah, depression and cabin fever suck. That is definitely, yeah, I did unmute the mic. That is definitely not a good combination. I am sorry. Well, hopefully our movie tonight and then hearing our story will make you feel better. I certainly hope that it does. Hi Beth, I can see you in the chat. And yes, I'm mean. You've been talking to some very good people, obviously people outside of me then. Wait, you've heard legend of the film? With the film we're watching tonight? Here? The Patchwork Girl of Oz? I am confused. But that's okay. Okay, you get some foods. And I will wait for Beth to get in here. Oh, no. The Yellow Brick Road is a reference to, because we're gonna watch The Patchwork Girl of Oz, and then I'm gonna finish reading the second half of Ozma of Oz. Don't get me wrong, The Patchwork Girl of Oz looks like it's a trip, but no, we're not watching Yellow Brick Road. I mean, let me see if I can find Yellow Brick Road as a film. Oh, if you're talking about the 2010 film, no, because that's definitely under copyright. I don't want to lose my Twitch account. I'm glad you're still going to join in. You are always welcome here. All are welcome here. Yeah, tonight's movie is very old. It's a black and white, and it's silent. It doesn't even have a music track. So I am probably going to leave my music. I'll put the music back up so we have something underneath the film. Because I watched a little of it just to see, and there's no music, there's no score. It is a silent film in the most literal sense. Biscuits and cookies? Wait, so what is... Because I thought for you British people, I thought biscuits were cookies. What's the difference between a biscuit and a cookie? I need to know. Because I know Fig Newtons are cake. I learned that from commercials. I should see how bad my lag is. You can't possibly be worse than I was playing that kindergarten game. Let me see how bad is lag. Okay, the lag is 6 or 7 seconds. That's not too bad. Biscuits are dried. So biscuits are dried cheese and cookies are dough with chocolate chips. Okay. Biscuits are dried cheese. Got it. Maybe dried potatoes. I am just giving you a hard time. It's okay. It's all right. Let's find some nice music that can be the backdrop for our movie. Do we want upbeat music? Or do we want chill music? What? You didn't want to join the great cookie and biscuit debate? I think we will go with chill music. I'm pretty sure we have custard creams here. We probably just call them something else. Custard creams is like what's inside a Twinkie, right? That ain't no custard cream. I can just hear the indignation coming through. I can just hear that indignation. Okay, is the music level okay for you to hear it and hear me too? Because the music level can go a variety of ways with the volume. I can go up a lot more, I can go down a lot more. Music a little loud? Okay. Not a problem. How is that? I don't know why I made that sound either. I just did. So custard cream is a biscuit, but cream implies that it would be sweet. Custard cream should be sweet, and you said a biscuit is savory. Your foods confuse me. I always stick with my American food. Like bourbons? What the hell is chocolate bourbon? Bourbon is liquor. But a bit of Bismee knows about bourbons. I do not. I have made bourbon balls and rum balls, but that is it. We should probably start the movie before we upset you anymore with your silly foods. Your biscuits and your cookies and your... Okay, no, bourbon. It is bourbon, and it's a drink. You can't just use names for things and change them. No. It's spelled bourbon, but it's pronounced borehole. Borehole Bon. So borehole Bon cookies? No, biscuits. Borehole biscuits actually sounds like a good brand name. Okay, we should watch our movie. Watch our movie. I will put the title there. I mean, educate myself. You said it was pronounced borehole bon. I'm just doing what you said. Why can't I change? There we go. Girl from Oz. I think that's the name of the film. I will look forward to the borehole bonds. Borehole bond biscuits. I'm doing my best here. Patch. Work. There. Borehole Bond sounds like a cool band name. One day we will play bass for Borehole Bond. Alright, where's my movie? Oh, wait, I need my timer. My timer meaning timer. Used to play Borehole Bon is a cool band name. We need to jump on that. Okay, this movie is only 48 minutes. I should start the movie before I start the timer. There we go. Yay, I did get the title right. Part 1. Okay, now take a good look at that and tell me that is not nightmare fuel. We need Cleric of Madness in here because that is creepy. Just ahead. Okay, here we got reading. I will read to you. Ojo and Unk Nunky. I made a horrible mistake, I think, with this movie choice. Do you want some different music? Because like I said, I mean, the movie has no sound at all. I can change to a different music. I chose chill, but, I mean, we can do upbeat. There's happy. Something orchestral. Yeah, I can go to strictly instrumental. That is not a problem. Chiptune. You guys want chiptune music? Okay, here's what we want. Epic, cinematic, and orchestral. Here you go. Let's end this. That is a good choice of song for this movie. Okay. I'm guessing these cards, it must be listing the actors and actresses that play the parts as it goes. Alright, we will continue. It's Santa Claus. I didn't know Santa Claus lived in Oz. Just climb up there. See what you can steal. Throw up, apparently. There are no more loaves on the bread tree that grows in our yard. Tell me, Unc Nunky, why are we so poor? Probably because neither of you works, would be my guess. So this definitely takes place in the world of Ozma of Oz, which is in the land of Ev and not Oz, so... Let us go to the Emerald City where there's plenty for all. No one ever starves in the land of Oz, but to get food, we must go where it is. Funny how that works. No, 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 no. I don't want to go. No. He's definitely not thrilled. Throw that temper tantrum, child. Beat your head on that table. What have I done to deserve this child? Why? Why have you cursed me with her? You wound me, girl. Here, have a hat. Come on, wear your hat. There you go. Hats make everything better. And now you're Gandalf. Possibly drunk Gandalf. Come on, we gotta go. Wait, I lost my hat. Give me back my hat. Thank God we know the names of the characters that don't say anything. Dr. Pipt has been 6 years making a magic powder of life. I guess that's what he's doing. And meanwhile, we are just walking along. Very excited. I'm tired doing my own work. Hurry and finish that magic powder and I'll make a servant girl and bring her to life. It's Frankenstein. A magic powder of life cocaine, absolutely. Margolette searches for material. Maybe instead of making a servant girl, he should, I don't know, fix that chair. The magician's daughter and her sweetheart. Thanks to... Oh, we got munchkins in this. He looks kind of tall for a munchkin, or maybe she's just very short. And we can't tell. If you like it, then you gotta put a ring on it. And look, little people dancing. Meanwhile, we're just throwing things around. And now we'll throw them all back in the box. This is why you don't talk to strangers. And we're off. Okay, no. No. God damn it. Just no. Furry donkeys humping trees, rubbing their asses on them. I did not sign up for this. Let me tell you all something, my children. A lot of these old movies, I go through them because some of them have a lot of racism. So I have looked through a lot of them and I haven't played them because I try to shield you. I try to shield you from things. Apparently there was no saving you from the furry donkey humping the tree. And for that, I just, God damn it. Why is this in an Oz movie? A Lord of the Rings remake where instead of the ring, it's Gandalf's liquor collection. Because when Gandalf got drunk, what you see on the screen happens. Be brave. We will continue. Maybe we will continue. The damn movie doesn't want to restart now. I can't. I can't with this. Yes, do run away. Please don't hump the bridge or the girl. Oh, God. Why? 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 Yeah, grinding wood. I feel like there is no coming back from that. The donkey with no toilet paper. Hello, Cleric. How are you? The gang is all here now. Did you see the tree humping furry donkey? Yeah, I'm not so sure of that right now. Because now I'm afraid of what else is in here. Because I have read the story of the Patchwork Girl of Oz, and nowhere was there a tree humping donkey furry. Yeah, that's totally how you sew things. Oh, you didn't see it? Okay, guys. Do we need to rewind so Cleric can see it? Or do we want to spare him? That damn donkey. He's probably gonna hump something else, so what the hell? Furries have been on film since 1918, apparently. Yeah, that donkey scares me. Yeah. Yeah, that donkey. You know, the more I look at the old guy, I mean, from the back, he looks like the Scarecrow. After the humping donkey, I don't even want to think about what that guy is doing on the stool. I can't tell if she's pissed or happy. Us DC expanded universe, yeah. Here's your goddamn doll. Why is she giving them the doll? I don't even know anymore. Riddler, let the munchkins go. Why are they playing charades? Just give us title cards. End of part 1. Oh joy! Oh goddamn! It's the donkey. Yes, run from that donkey. That donkey has issues. Oh no, she has no brains. The fewer brains, the better the servant. The music is fitting. I'm glad I found that there is that orchestral and cinematic genre on Pretzel Rocks. I really like Pretzel Rocks. They have some pretty good music. Magic brains. If only we all had a cabinet of magic brains. I would like some magic brains. Yes, we definitely need lots of judgment. We need to be judgy. No obedience. You have a cabinet of brains? That donkey, I tell you, he's gonna hump something again. Ojo slyly gives the patchwork girl the brains. She's not actually being sly, they're just ignoring her. Keep the donkey out. This is why you don't do drugs, kids. The powder of life is nearly ready. So Pretzel Rock knows. That's why the music fits so well. It's an AI and it knows what we're watching. It's watching us back and choosing fitting music. Also, if there's that much smoke, shouldn't you be like leaving? I can't tell what's smoke and what's damage to the film. Yeah, just knock a few cauldrons over. What the hell? There's no need to be precise. We got all this stuff. We'll just dump it everywhere. Apparently magic is not precise. As we watch donkey furry porn, that's what worries me. I mean, it's bad enough with Google customizing ads. Can you imagine what ads we're gonna get now? Are the other servants dead? Has he just not brought them to life? To make more powder of life would mean stirring 4 kettles with both hands and both feet for 6 long weary years. Yeah, I wouldn't do that either. That's true. It would be ironic if smoke from the powder of life killed you. Yeah, watch out for the donkey. This is the circus. Is this why you don't like the circus? That bunch of scraps has caused all our trouble. What trouble has she actually caused? You see this? It says magic something. Okay, so they must all be munchkins, and that's a regular sized book. Petrifaction. It's a big word, and I know what it means, but I can't think of the meaning right now. Yeah, they did a pretty good job with that stop action editing. Considering especially the year that this is from. I hate to go leave my love here alone, Father. Can't you reduce him and yes, just shrink him down. Oh, wait, I see what happened. The powder from the elixir of life made them all into I don't know what. Kissy kissy. I think so too. I think it should be petrification. Rojo and Jaseva go to find a woozy. That is a pretty good summary of this entire movie so far. We're going to find a woozy. Part 3. For God's sakes, watch out for the donkey, because you know he's coming back. I guess this is the Patchwork Dolls version of stripping. I'll just pull out scraps of my fabric. Well, there's a woozy. Let's hope it doesn't hump things like the donkey did. The music does definitely enhance this film. I'm glad it has no soundtrack of its own. You're supposed to be catching the woozy, not scaring it away. The woozy is played by the same guy who played the donkey. Just be forewarned. Okay, that is actually kind of adorable. It's like a very square cat. Just please don't hump anything. Yes, the Minecraft cat. Time travel proved, because obviously someone went back in time to put the Minecraft cat into this movie. Time travel confirmed. Oh god, this isn't gonna end well. Mr. Woozy, we want 3 hairs from the end of your tail. You're a good Woozy. Best Minecraft cat ever. Yes. This what? The only way to get 3 hairs is to take the Woozy with us. Well, there are worse things that you could have than a Minecraft cat. Come on, Minecraft cat. Don't turn into the donkey and hump anything. Do you really think it's gonna climb? I can't climb out, but if you could make me angry, my eyes will flash red and burn a hole through the fence. Woozy is definitely a good cat name now. Yeah, kick it in the balls. That's a good plan. Yeah, if your goal is to burn a hole in the fence, might be good if the dipshits on the other side moved out of the way. They are not smart. The Woozy is free at last. Was there not a gate they could open or something? I mean... Come on, Minecraft cat. You haven't humped anything, so I like you. Please don't. Oh god. At least it didn't hump it. The arrival of Ginger, a maid from the Emerald City. This almost looks like it could have been filmed in some of the areas where they filmed Tarzan of the Apes. The Wall of Optical Illusion. It's okay. The wall will not attack you. They're there. Ginger falls in love with the statue of Danks. Oh, we're gonna have a cat fight. Hopefully the cat doesn't participate. You see the wall, but it's not there. So let's run at it. Go, Minecraft cat, go. Maybe back in the 1900s, there was only one place they could film movies. And look, it's a weed. It's against the law of Oz to pluck a 6-leaved clover. The doll will be in my nightmares, yeah. The doll and the donkey. And that face at the beginning. Soldier with the green whiskers guards the gate of the Emerald City. Yes, we met him when I read The Wizard of Oz. Oh no, she breaks the law and plucks the clover. Somebody's gonna tell. She put the clover, she picked the clover. I mean, aren't you all out there together on the mission to get what you need to make the anti-whatever potion? So you know you need the 6-leaved clover for the potion. So why in the hell would you turn her in? Snitches get stitches, bitch. And now we're going to fight over a doll. The Royal Barracks. Well, she's in the Royal Barracks. Tried everybody riot. Like literally riot, apparently. I'm not gonna go after them. I'm just gonna sit my fat ass back down. The soldier beset by the Munchkins rings the great alarm bell. What is that I hear? Begone, harem, begone! I must go kill people. Also, actually kind of impressed for this age that they've got an all-women army. The end of part 3. Don't tell me that really? Come on, part 4. You can do it. Yay. Yeah, he ain't listening to you. way. That is so wrong. That's the garb of a royal prisoner? It looks like Casper the Ghost. And a Minecraft cat. I'm gonna sit back down again. I ain't paid enough for this shit. Oh, that's right. The statue of the guy was what started this whole thing. Yeah. Cat fight. Cat fight. Cat fight. And in the meantime, someone else has a statue. Patchwork Girl does not recognize her friends in their prison garb. Usually when your friends are in the prison garb, you don't want to acknowledge they're your friends anyway. I have to say, I expected the city of Oz to be much larger. Oh, that's right, this dude's going looking for a dark well. I swear this is the same set where they filmed Tarzan of the Apes. Oh, that was definitely interesting. Oh, there's the stuff of nightmares. Your furniture arranges itself and apparently walks over each other. That dude really needs to lay off the shrooms. What if the pillow comes over and suffocates him? I mean, this is some cool stop action photography. I will give them props for that. That'd have taken a really long time. Those were some exceptional shrooms I did. The Lonesome Zoop. It's not Minecraft. You know, I bet in some countries you two are now married. I hope the donkey and the zoop don't encounter each other. Oh yeah, Frank Baum wrote several books, but I swear that donkey was not in the book I read on the Patchwork Girl. And I'm not sure if the Patchwork Girl was actually written by Frank Baum. This movie was definitely not the product of anything Frank Baum wrote. Hopper Town. Sounds like a place where there should be a lot of frogs. Yeah, that's not disturbing. We can't have no bipedal people here. Wait, what? So he's just gonna let them cut off a leg? Now you have no legs. And now I'll beat you in the head. And you grew a second leg. The Jolly Tottenhots. Now this sounds promising. Instead of hopping, they'll Jolly Tot. That sounds like a good band name too. The Jolly Hottens. It's like a giant game of whack-a-mole. Ginger recovers the statue of Danks. What, did she lose it? Did she drop him? Come on, part 5. What, are they all pregnant? The Horners. So those are Horners, and they have a dark well. Want to see my dark well? It's down in my lower caverns. First we have to figure out how to open a gate, though. Walk up the fence. Well, at least they got a slide. Yes, we are very happy. We leave now. Bye-bye. Okay, so I thought that Patchwork Girl crossed paths with Ozma. We may see her in our reading tonight. So many furries in this, because there's the Cowardly Lion and the Hungry Tiger and the bearskin rug on the floor. Just your stick by which you may whack the people that displease you. Okay, this definitely doesn't take place in the book universe. Because in the actual book, The Wizard of Oz was dethroned, and that's how Ozma came into power. Apparently in this, they're married. He's her hubby. Meanwhile, yes, don't forget the Minecraft cat, damn it. He is the best part of this. Is this 6 leaves? Is this 6 leaves? I think it's 6 leaves. I can't really count that high. Is that 6 leaf clover? I mean, what are those conferring about? Hello, Scarecrow. Yeah, you need to meet the Patchwork Girl. I don't think he actually got any brains. True love. I found the dark well. You still have to get 3 hairs out of Minecraft Cat's tail. Have mercy, gentle ruler, and permit me to restore the statues to life. God damn it, Bozo, what should I do? Why is Bozo the clown in this? Yes, drag the damn statues here now. Yeah, that is strange. It's like he's a magician. If you don't think he can do magic, why is he your magician? Hello, statues. Yeah, that was impressive. Obviously, he can do magic, so, you know, let him go. You mentioned the children those two will have. There's something for your nightmares. Oh, but he's still tiny. He's pocket boy. Oh, now he's all grown up. Oh, thank goodness. Oh, who was reunited? But I guess, yeah, they were. Yeah, you can let go now, Uncle Nunky. And there's the creepy head again. Let's just take a moment. Because that had a donkey humping a tree. Which is not what I expect of my Oz movies at all. That was a movie. That was definitely a movie. Thank you, Pretzel Rocks, for providing some very appropriate background music. It would not have been the same without that. Yeah, that was a movie. liked Minecraft Cat. The donkey. The donkey. You missed the best, most horrifying part of the movie, Cleric. You really did. But yeah, that was not what I expected at all. I'm going to take a quick break. And what face is that, Cleric? So to say, you can watch the VOD. I will put a timestamp. I should have added a marker for our tree humping donkey. You can watch it on the VOD. You would think for the time period that the movies would be not so full of these things. Like, I don't know. I'm gonna stick to reading because at least in the books we don't have those visuals to give us nightmares. So I will take a quick break, get some water, because I got another, I think 120 pages of Ozma of Oz to read. But Ozma of Oz is a good book. Much better than that was. So I will be back in a few. I will give you guys some more of that cinematic music. That music was perfect for that movie. And that was kind of scary because it was just randomly playing music from that genre. So I will be back in a little bit. Enjoy the music. Get some snacks, some water, stay hydrated. We'll be back in a bit. Alright, we are back, and I hope you're all ready to jump back into Ozma of Oz, which I promise you is better than that movie. Promise. We're actually on page 140 of 280, so 140 pages left. That's okay. 140 pages is nothing. So we left off with the giant with the hammer. It looks like at the end of the last time we were together, our party of TikTok and the Tin Woodsman and the Scarecrow and the Sawhorse and Dorothy and Ozma and the Cowardly Lion and the Hungry Tiger and whoever the hell else was with them. We're heading for the valley that would lead to the Gnome King's domain. Hey, Fatal Neon! Hi! I'm glad to see you here. How are you? Also, I have a Discord that's just for this channel, for those of you that don't want to be corrupted by the other Discord that I have. And I am going to start promoting people. Jack, hi! Oh, so good to see you here. So if you're interested in the movie nights and the occasional science, mostly movies and reading, check out the Discord. You can suggest books, suggest movies. We talk about random things. You guys should check me out. If you are not familiar with her, she does sound therapy sessions. Very little crashes and dings. And Floyd is there in Bunsen. Check Me Out has an awesome stream. Really highly recommend that you go and see her. Are you still streaming on Sunday nights, right? Sunday nights and I can't remember which day during the week because it's when I'm working and they block my access to Twitch like the meanies they are. Oh, no, thank you for your streams because they are wonderful and they are lovely, and I admit I love Floyd. I know. Expecting me to work as if. But yeah, I do want to put together something so I can, like, everybody that's a part of my little community here, because I want to shout you guys out. I want to direct people to your YouTube. Are we Ozzing out right now? When I get done babbling, we will. We're gonna do the second half of Ozma of Oz. You missed the film, and be grateful for that. Because that, yeah, we're not watching that one again. I have a pure, wholesome channel, and it corrupted it. But no, I wanna be able to direct people to YouTube channels or art pages or whatever, because, I mean, if it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be here. And if it wasn't for people shouting me out and directing people to check out my streams, I don't think any of you would be here. So I'm very grateful for that, and I would like to pay it forward. I want to direct people to other streamers and YouTubers and artists, because we all gotta help we all gotta help ourselves. That is a horrible, horrible, horrible thing. We all should help each other, I think. No, you are very sweet. I'm grateful for all of you. So just remember, you are the reason that I am here. Not that it isn't fun to talk to myself, but it's definitely better when there's people around. Alright, I have babbled and gushed enough. It's time for our story. Because I'm sure there's some people here who are hoping to go to sleep, and I can't really read you to sleep if I don't actually, read. So, without further ado, let's continue on. I don't know what chapter number we're on because it doesn't give me chapter numbers. But we are beginning with The Giant with the Hammer. The road led for a time through a pretty farm country, and then past a picnic grove that was very inviting. But the procession continued to steadily advance until Billina cried in an abrupt and commanding manner, "Wait! Wait!" Ozma stopped her chariot so suddenly that the Scarecrow's sawhorse nearly ran into it, and the ranks of the army tumbled over one another before they could come to a halt. Immediately, the Yellow Hen struggled from Dorothy's arms and flew into a clump of bushes by the roadside. "What's the matter?" called the Tin Woodsman anxiously. "Why, Billina wants to lay her egg, that's all," said Dorothy. "Lay her egg?" repeated the Tin Woodsman in astonishment. "Yes, she lays one every morning about this time, and it's quite fresh," said the girl. "Does your foolish old hen suppose this entire cavalcade, which is bound on an important adventure, is going to stand still while she lays her egg?" inquired the Tin Woodman earnestly. "What else can we do?" asked the girl. "It's a habit of Billina's, and she can't break herself of it." "Then she must hurry up," said the Tin Woodsman impatiently. "Oh, no," exclaimed the Scarecrow. "If she hurries, she may lay scrambled eggs." "That's nonsense," said Dorothy. "But Billina won't be long, I'm sure." So they stood and waited, although all were restless and anxious to proceed. And by the Yellow Hen came from the bushes, saying, "Cut, cut, 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 cut." "What is she doing? Singing her lay?" asked the Scarecrow. "Forward, march!" shouted the Tin Woodsman, waving his axe, and the procession started just as Dorothy had once more grabbed Billina in her arms. "Isn't anyone going to get my egg?" cried the hen in great excitement. "I'll get it," said the Scarecrow, and at his command the sawhorse pranced into the bushes. The straw man soon found the egg, which he placed in his jacket pocket. The cavalcade, having moved rapidly on, was even then far in advance, but it did not take the sawhorse long to catch up with it, and presently the Scarecrow was riding in his accustomed place behind Ozma's chariot. "What shall I do with the egg?" he asked Dorothy. "I do not know," the girl answered. "Perhaps the hungry tiger would like it." "It would not be enough to fill one of my back teeth," remarked the tiger. "A bushel of them, hard-boiled, might take a little of the edge off my appetite, but one egg isn't good for anything at all that I know of." "No, it wouldn't even make a sponge cake," said the Scarecrow thoughtfully. "The Tin Woodsman might carry it with his axe and hatchet, but after all I may as well keep it myself for a souvenir." So he left it in his pocket. They had now reached that part of the valley that lay between the two high mountains which Dorothy had seen from her tower window. At the far end was the third great mountain, which blocked the valley and was the northern edge of the land of Ev. It was underneath this mountain that the Gnome King's palace was said to be, but it would be some time before they reached that place. The path was becoming rocky and difficult for the wheels of the chariot to pass over, and presently a deep gulf appeared at their feet, which was too wide for them to leap. So Ozma took a small square of green cloth from her pocket and threw it upon the ground. At once it became the magic carpet and unrolled itself far enough for all the cavalcade to walk upon. The chariot now advanced, and the green carpet unrolled before it, crossing the gulf on a level with its banks, so that all passed over in safety. "That's easy enough," said the Scarecrow. "I wonder what will happen next." He was not long in making the discovery, for the sides of the mountain came closer together until finally there was but a narrow path between them, along which Ozma and her party were forced to pass in single file. They now heard a low and deep thump, 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 which echoed throughout the valley and seemed to grow louder as they advanced. Then, turning a corner of rock, they saw before them a huge form, which towered above the path for more than 100 feet. The form was that of a gigantic man built out of plates of cast iron, and it stood with one foot on either side of the narrow road and swung over its right shoulder an immense iron mallet, with which it constantly pounded the earth. These resounding blows explained the thumping sounds they had heard, for the mallet was much bigger than a barrel, and where it struck the path between the rocky sides of the mountain, it filled all the space through which our travelers would be obliged to pass. Of course they at once halted, a safe distance away from the terrible iron mallet. The magic carpet would do them no good in this case, for it was only meant to protect them from any dangers upon the ground beneath their feet, and not from dangers that appeared in the air above. "Wow," said the Cowardly Lion with a shudder. "It makes me dreadfully nervous to see that big hammer pounding so near my head. One blow would crush me into a doormat." "The Iron Giant is a fine fellow," said Tik-Tok, "and works as steadily as a clock. He was made for the Gnome King by Smith and Tinker, who made me, and his duty is to keep folks from finding the underground palace. Is he not a great work of art?" "Can he think and speak as you do?" asked Ozma, regarding the giant with wondering eyes. "No," replied the machine, "for he is only made to pound the road, and has no thinking or speaking attachment. But he pounds very well, I think." "Too well," observed the Scarecrow. "He is keeping us from going further. Is there no way to stop his machinery?" "Only the Gnome King, who has the key, can do that," answered Tik-Tok. "Then," said Dorothy anxiously, "what shall we do?" "Excuse me for a few minutes," said the Scarecrow, "and I will think it over." He retired then to a position in the rear, where he turned his painted face to the rocks and began to think. Meantime, the giant continued to raise his iron mallet high in the air and to strike the path terrific blows that echoed through the mountains, like the roar of a cannon. Each time the mallet lifted, however, there was a moment when the path beneath the monster was free, and perhaps the Scarecrow had noticed this, for when he came back to the others he said, "The matter is a very simple one after all. We have but to run under the hammer, one at a time, when it is lifted, and pass to the other side before it falls again. It will require quick work if we escape the blow," said the Tin Woodsman, with a shake of his head. "But it really seems the only thing to be done. Who will make the first attempt?" They looked at one another hesitatingly for a moment. Then the Cowardly Lion, who was trembling like a leaf in the wind, said to them, "I suppose the head of the procession must go first, and that's me. But I'm terribly afraid of the big hammer." "What will become of me?" asked Ozma. "You might rush under the hammer yourself, but the chariot would surely be crushed." "We must leave the chariot," said the Scarecrow. "But you two girls can ride upon the backs of the lion and the tiger." So this was decided upon, and Ozma, as soon as the lion was unfastened from the chariot, at once mounted the beast's back and said she was ready. "Cling fast to his mane," advised Dorothy. "I used to ride him myself, and that's the way I held on." So Ozma clung fast to the mane, and the lion crouched in the path and eyed the swinging mallet carefully until he knew just the instant it would begin to rise in the air. Then, before anyone thought he was ready, he made a sudden leap straight between the Iron Giant's legs, and before the mallet struck the ground again, the lion and Ozma were safe on the other side. The tiger went next. Dorothy sat upon his back and locked her arms around his striped neck, for he had no mane to cling to. He made the leap straight and true as an arrow from a bow, and Dorothy realized it was... And the page is cut wrong. And the sentence makes no sense. And Dorothy realized she was out of danger and standing by Ozma's side. Now came the Scarecrow on the Sawhorse, and while they made the dash in safety, they were within a hair's breadth of being caught by the descending hammer. Tick-Tock walked up to the very edge of the spot the hammer struck, and as it was raised for the next blow, he calmly stepped forward and escaped its descent. That was an idea for the Tin Woodsman to follow, and he also crossed in safety while the great hammer was in the air. But when it came to the 26 officers and the private, their knees were so weak that they could not walk a step. "In battle we are wonderfully courageous," said one of the generals, "and our foes find us very terrible to face. But war is one thing, and this is another. When it comes to being pounded upon the head by an iron hammer and smashed into pancakes, we naturally object." "Make a run for it," urged the Scarecrow. "Our knees shake so that we cannot run," answered a captain. "If we should try it, we would all certainly be pounded to a jelly." "Well, well," sighed the Cowardly Lion. "I see, friend Tiger, that we must place ourselves in great danger to rescue this bold army. Come with me, and we will do the best we can." So Ozma and Dorothy, having already dismounted from their backs, the Lion and the Tiger leapt back again under the awful hammer and returned with 2 generals clinging to their necks. They repeated this daring passage 12 times, when all the officers had been carried beneath the giant's legs and landed safely on the further side. By that time the beasts were very tired, and panted so hard that their tongues hung out of their great mouths. "But what is to become of the private?" asked Ozma. Big Max, thank you for hosting. Very much appreciated. Hope you were doing well. I know I shouldn't have stopped reading in the middle of the chapter, but the sound startled me. So that is my bad. I hope you had a good stream. "Oh, leave him there to guard the chariot," said the Lion. "I'm tired out and won't pass under that mallet again." Oh, it's okay, Big Max. Nothing to apologize for. I'm the one that forgot what the alert even was for. I heard it, I looked over, and it's like, ooh, I get excited. You didn't scare me. I'll live. At least I knew where I left off. It's fine. The officers at once protested that they must have the private with them, else there would be no one for them to command. But neither the Lion nor the Tiger would go after him, so the Scarecrow sent the Sawhorse. Either the wooden horse was careless, or it failed to properly time the descent of the hammer, for the mighty weapon caught it squarely upon its head, and thumped it against the ground so powerfully that the private flew off its back high into the air, and landed upon one of the giant's cast-iron arms. Here he clung desperately while the arm rose and fell with each of the rapid strokes. The Scarecrow dashed in to rescue his Sawhorse, and had his left foot smashed by the hammer before he could pull the creature out of danger. Then they found that the Sawhorse had been badly dazed by the blow, for while the hard wooden knot of which his head was formed could not be crushed by the hammer, both of his ears were broken off, and he would be unable to hear a sound until some new ones were made for him. Also his left knee was cracked and had to be bound up with a string. Billina having fluttered under the hammer, it was now remaining only to rescue the private who was riding upon the giant's arm high in the air. The Scarecrow lay flat upon the ground and called to the man to jump down upon his body, which was soft because it was stuffed with straw. This the private managed to do, waiting until a time when he was nearest the ground and then letting himself drop upon the Scarecrow. He accomplished the feat without breaking any bones, and the Scarecrow declared he was not injured in the least. Therefore, the Tin Woodsman, having by this time fitted new ears to the sawhorse, the entire party proceeded upon its way, leaving the giant to pound the path behind them. And that is the end of that chapter. Yeah, I'm a dork, so I will try to ignore everything until I come to the end of the next chapter, I promise. The Gnome King. By and by, when they drew near to the mountain that blocked their path, and which was the furthest edge of the kingdom of Ev, the way grew dark and gloomy for the reason that the high peaks on either side shut out the sunshine. And it was very silent, too, as there were no birds to sing or squirrels to chatter, the trees being left far behind them and only the bare rocks remaining. Ozma and Dorothy were a little awed by the silence, and all the others were quiet and grave except the sawhorse, which, as it trotted along with the Scarecrow upon his back, hummed a queer song, of which this was the chorus. Would a wooden horse in a woodland go? Aye, I sigh, he would, although, had he not a wooden head, he'd mount the mountain top instead. But no one paid any attention to this, because they were now close to the Gnome King's dominions, and his splendid underground palace could not be very far away. Suddenly they heard a shout of jeering laughter and stopped short. They would have to stop in a minute anyway, for the huge mountain barred their further progress, and the path ran close up to a wall of rock and ended. "Who is that laughing?" asked Ozma. There was no reply, but in the gloom they could see strange forms flit across the face of the rocks. Whatever the creations might be, they seemed very like the rock itself, for they were the color of rocks, and their shapes were as rough and rugged as if they had been broken away from the side of the mountain. They kept close to the steep cliff facing our friends, and glided up and down, this way and that, with a lack of regularity that was quite confusing. And they seemed not to need places to rest their feet, but clung to the surface of the rock as a fly does to a window pane, and they were never still for a moment. "Do not mind them," said Tik-Tok as Dorothy shrank back. "They're only the gnomes." "And what are gnomes?" asked the girl, half frightened. "They are rock fairies and serve the Gnome King," replied the machine. "But they will do us no harm. You must call for the king, because without him you can never find the entrance to the palace." "You call," said Dorothy to Ozma. Just then the gnomes laughed again, and the sound was so weird and disheartening that the 26 officers commanded the private to right about face, and they all started to run as fast as they could. The Tin Woodsman at once pursued his army and cried, "Halt!" And when they had stopped their flight, he asked, "Where are you going?" I find I've forgotten the brush for my whiskers," said General, trembling with fear. "So we are going back after it." "That is impossible," replied the Tin Woodsman, "for the giant with the hammer would kill you all if you tried to pass him." "Oh, I'd forgotten the giant," said the General, turning pale. "You seem to forget a good many things," remarked the Tin Woodsman. "I hope you won't forget that you are brave men." "Never," cried the General, slapping his gold-embroidered chest. "Never," cried all the other officers, indignantly slapping their chests. "For my part," said the private meekly, "I must obey my officers, so when I am told to run, I run, and when I am told to fight, I fight." "That is right," agreed the Tin Woodsman. "And now you must all come back to Ozma and obey her orders. And if you try to run away again, I will have her reduce all the 26 officers to privates and make the private your general." This terrible threat so frightened them that they at once returned to where Ozma was standing beside the Cowardly Lion. Then Ozma cried out in a loud voice, "I demand that the Gnome King appear to us." There was no reply, except that the shifting gnomes upon the mountain laughed in derision. "You must not command the Gnome King," said Tik-Tok, "for you do not rule him as you do your own people." So Ozma called again, saying, "I request the Gnome King to appear to us." Only the mocking laughter replied to her, and the shadowy gnomes continued to flit here and there upon the rocky cliff. "Try entreaty," said Tik-Tok to Ozma. "If you will not come at your request, then the Gnome King may listen to your pleading." Ozma looked around her proudly. "Do you wish your ruler to plead with this wicked Gnome King?" she asked. "Shall Ozma of Oz humble herself to a creature who lives in an underground kingdom?" "No," they all shouted with big voices, and the Scarecrow added, "If he will not come, we will dig him out of his hole like a fox and conquer his stubbornness. But our sweet little ruler must always maintain her dignity, just as I maintain mine." "I'm not afraid to plead with him," said Dorothy. "I'm only a little girl from Kansas, and we've got more dignity at home than we know what to do with. I'll call the Gnome King." "Do," said the Hungry Tiger, "and if he makes hash of you, I'll willingly eat you for breakfast tomorrow morning." So Dorothy stepped forward and said, "Please, Mr. Gnome King, come here and see us." The gnomes started to laugh again, but a low growl came from the mountain, and in a flash they had all vanished from sight and were silent. Then a door in the rock opened, and a voice cried, "Enter." "Isn't it a trick?" asked the Tin Woodsman. "Never mind," replied Ozma. "We came here to rescue the poor Queen of Ev and her 10 children, and we must run some risks to do so." "The Gnome King is honest and good-natured," said Tik-Tok. "You can trust him to do what is right." So Ozma led the way, hand in hand with Dorothy, and they passed through the arched doorway of rock and entered a long passage which was lighted by jewels set in the walls and having lamps behind them. There was no one to escort them, or to show them the way, but all the party pressed through the passage until they came to a round, domed cavern that was grandly furnished. In the center of this room was a throne, carved out in a solid boulder of rocks, rude and rugged in shape, but glittering with great rubies and diamonds and emeralds on every part of its surface. And upon the throne sat the Gnome King. The important monarch of the underground world was a little fat man clothed in gray-brown garments that were the exact color of the rock throne in which he was seated. His bushy hair and flowing beard were also colored like the rocks, and so was his face. He wore no crown of any sort, and his only ornament was a broad, jewel-studded belt that encircled his fat little body. As for his features, they seemed kindly and good-humored, and his eyes had turned merrily upon his visitors, as Ozma and Dorothy stood before him, with their followers ranged in close order behind them. "Why, he looks just like Santa Claus, only he's in the same color," whispered Dorothy to her friends. The Gnome King heard the speech, and it made him laugh aloud. "He had a red face like a round little belly that shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly," quoth the monarch in a pleasant voice, and they could all see that he really did shake like jelly when he laughed. Both Ozma and Dorothy were much relieved to find the Gnome King so jolly, and a minute later he waved his right hand, and the girls each found a cushioned stool at her side. "Sit down, my dears," said the king, "and tell me why you have come all this way to see me, and what I can do to make you happy." While they seated themselves, the Gnome King picked up a pipe, and taking a glowing red coal out of his pocket, he placed it in the bowl of the pipe and began puffing out clouds of smoke that curled in rings above his head. Dorothy thought this made the little monarch look even more like Santa Claus than ever, but Ozma now began speaking, and everyone listened intently to her words. "Your Majesty," said she, "I am the ruler of the land of Oz, and I have come here to ask you to release the good Queen of Ev and her 10 children, whom you have enchanted and hold as your prisoners." "Oh no, you are mistaken about that," replied the king. "They are not my prisoners, but my slaves, whom I purchased from the King of Ev." "But that was wrong," said Ozma. "According to the laws of Ev, the king can do no wrong," answered the monarch, eyeing a ring of smoke he had just blown from his mouth, "so that he had a perfect right to sell his family to me in exchange for a long life." "You cheated him, though," declared Dorothy, "for the King of Ev did not have a long life. He jumped into the sea and was drowned." "That was not my fault," said the Gnome King, crossing his legs and smiling contentedly. "I gave him the long life, all right, but he destroyed it." "Then how could it be a long life?" asked Dorothy. "Easily enough," was the reply. "Now suppose, my dear, that I gave you a pretty doll in exchange for a lock of your hair. and that after you had received the doll, you smashed it into pieces and destroyed it. Could you say that I had not given you a pretty doll?" "No," answered Dorothy. "And could you, in fairness, ask me to return to you the lock of hair just because you had smashed the doll?" "No," said Dorothy again. "Of course not," the Gnome King returned. "Nor will I give up the Queen and her children because the King of Ev destroyed his long life by jumping into the sea. They belong to me, and I shall keep them." Yeah, I'm not at the end of the chapter yet, but I know an alert went off, and I must see what it was. I must see. Hello, Kiko Pigeons. Thank you for the $3. Oh, that is so sweet of you. It's very kind, very much appreciated. If you haven't seen Kiko Pigeons and his birdies, I love the birdies. Birdies are the best. You need to go check out Kiko Pigeons. His birdies are very calming and relaxing to listen to. And I do love them when they get right up to the camera. They're so funny. Alright, back to the reading. I know. I said I wouldn't stop in the middle of a chapter. I am not a good girl. I'm not a good streamer. It's okay. "You are treating them cruelly," said Ozma, who was much distressed by the king's refusal. "In what way?" he asked. "By making them your slaves," said she. "Cruelty," remarked the monarch, pulling out wreaths of smoke and watching them float into the air, "is a thing I can't abide. So, as slaves must work hard, and the Queen of Ev and her children were delicate and tender, I transformed them all into articles of ornament and bric-a-brac and scattered them around the various rooms of my palace. Instead of being obliged to labor, they merely decorate my apartments, and I really think I've treated them with great kindness." "But what a dreadful fate is theirs," exclaimed Ozma earnestly, "and the kingdom of Ev is in great need of its royal family to govern it. If you will liberate them and restore them to their proper form, I will give you 10 ornaments to replace each one you lose." The Gnome King looked grave. "Suppose I refuse?" he asked. "Then," said Ozma firmly, "I am here with my friends and my army to conquer your kingdom and oblige you to obey my wishes." The Gnome King laughed until he choked, and he choked until he coughed, and he coughed until his face turned from grayish-brown to bright red. And then he wiped his eyes with a rock-colored handkerchief and grew grave again. "You are as brave as you are pretty, my dear," he said to Ozma, "but you have little idea of the extent of the task you have undertaken. Come with me for a moment." He arose and took Ozma's hand, leading her to a little door at one side of the rooms. This he opened, and they stepped out upon a balcony from whence they obtained a wonderful view of the underground world. A vast cave extended for miles and miles under the mountain, and in every direction were furnaces and forges glowing brightly, and gnomes hammering upon precious metals or polishing gleaming jewels. All around the walls of the cave were thousands of doors of silver and gold, built into the solid rock, and these extended in rows far away from the distance, as far as Ozma's eyes could follow them. While the little maid from Oz gazed wonderingly upon the scene, the Gnome King uttered a shrill whistle, and at once all the silver and gold doors flew open, and solid ranks of gnome soldiers marched out from every one. So great were their numbers that they quickly filled the immense underground cavern and forced the busy workmen to abandon their tasks. Although this tremendous army consisted of rock-colored gnomes, all squat and fat, they were clothed in glittering armor of polished steel, inlaid with beautiful gems. Upon his brow each wore a brilliant electric light, and they bore sharp spears and swords and battle axes of solid bronze. It was evident that they were perfectly trained, for they stood in straight rows, rank after rank, with their weapons held erect and true, as if waiting but the word of command to level them upon their foes. "This," said the Gnome King, "is but a small part of my army. No ruler upon earth has ever dared to fight me, and no ruler ever will, for I am too powerful to oppose." He whistled again, and at once the martial array tiled through the silver and gold doorways and disappeared, after which the workmen again resumed their labors at the furnaces. Then, sad and discouraged, Ozma of Oz turned to her friends, and the Gnome King calmly reseated himself on his rock throne. "It will be foolish for us to fight," the girl said to the Tin Woodsman, "for our brave 27 would be quickly destroyed. I'm sure I do not know how to act in this emergency." "Ask the king where his kitchen is," suggested the tiger. "I'm hungry as a bear." "I might pounce upon the king and tear him in pieces," remarked the cowardly lion. "Try it," said the monarch, lighting his pipe with another hot coal which he took from his pocket. The lion crouched low and tried to spring upon the Gnome King, but he hopped only a little way into the air and came down again on the same place, not being able to approach the throne by even an inch. "It seems to me," said the Scarecrow thoughtfully, "that our best plan is to wheedle His Majesty into giving up his slave, since he is too great a magician to oppose." "This is the most sensible thing any of you have suggested," declared the Gnome King. "It is folly to threaten me, but I'm so kind-hearted that I cannot stand coaxing or wheedling. If you really wish to accomplish anything by your journey, dear Ozma, you must coax me." "Very well," said Ozma more cheerfully. "Let us be friends, and let us talk this over in a friendly manner." "To be sure," agreed the king, his eyes twinkling merrily. "I am very anxious," she continued, "to liberate the Queen of Ev and her children, who are now ornaments and bric-a-brac in your Majesty's palace, and to restore them to their people. Tell me, sir, how this may be accomplished." The king remained thoughtful for a moment, after which he asked, "Are you willing to take a few chances and risks yourself in order to set free the people of Ev?" "Yes, indeed," answered Ozma eagerly. "Then," said the Gnome King, "I will make you this offer. You shall go alone and unattended into my palace and examine carefully all of the rooms contain, and examine all that the rooms contain. Then you shall have permission to touch 11 different objects, pronouncing at the time the word Ev, and if any one of them, or more than one, proves to be the transformation of the Queen of Ev, or any of her 10 children, then they will instantly be restored to their true forms and may leave my palace and my kingdom in your company without any objection whatever. It is possible for you, in this way, to free the entire 11. But if you do not guess all the objects correctly, and some of the slaves remain transformed, then each one of your friends and followers may, in turn, enter the palace and have the same privilege I grant you." "Oh, thank you for this kind offer," said Ozma eagerly. "I make but one condition," added the Gnome King, his eyes twinkling. "What is it?" she inquired. "If none of the 11 objects you touch proves to be the transformation of any of the royal family of Ev, then instead of freeing them, you will yourself become enchanted and transformed into an article of bric-a-brac or an ornament. This is only fair and just, and is the risk you declared you were willing to take." And that is the end of that chapter. Best strimmer. And I am not the best strimmer. I am bad strimmer. Very bad strimmer. We scram now. We scram. All right. The 11 guesses. Hearing this condition imposed by the Gnome King, Ozma became silent and thoughtful, and all her friends looked at her uneasily. "Don't do it," exclaimed Dorothy. "If you guess wrong, you will be enslaved yourself." "But I shall have 11 guesses," answered Ozma. "Surely I ought to guess one object in 11 correctly, and if I do, I shall rescue one of the royal family and be safe myself. Then the rest of you may attempt it, and soon we shall free all of those who are enslaved." "What if we fail?" inquired the Scarecrow. "I'd look nice as a piece of bric-a-brac, wouldn't I?" "We must not fail," cried Ozma courageously. "Having come all this distance to free these poor people, It will be weak and cowardly in us to abandon the adventure. Therefore, I will accept the Gnome King's offer and go at once into the royal palace." "Come along then, my dear," said the king, climbing down from his throne with some difficulty because he was so fat. "I'll show you the way." He approached a wall of the cave and waved his hand. Instantly, an opening appeared, through which Ozma, after smiling farewell to her friends, boldly passed. She found herself in a splendid hall that was more beautiful and grand than anything she had ever beheld. The ceilings were composed of great arches that rose far above her head, and all the walls and floors were of polished marble, exquisitely tinted in many colors. Thick velvet carpets were on the floor, and heavy silken draperies covered the arches leading to the various rooms of the palace. The furniture was made of rare old woods, richly carved and covered with delicate satins, and the entire palace was lighted by a mysterious rosy glow that seemed to come from no particular place, but flooded each apartment with its soft and pleasing radiance. Ozma passed from one room to another, greatly delighted by all she saw. The lovely palace had no other occupant, for the Gnome King had left her at the entrance, which closed behind her, and in all the magnificent rooms there appeared to be no other person. Upon the mantels and on many shelves and brackets and tables were cluttered ornaments of every description, seemingly made out of all sorts of metals, glass, china, stones, and marbles. There were vases and figures of men and animals, and graven platters and bowls, and mosaics of precious gems, and many other things. Pictures, too, were on the walls, and the underground palace was quite a museum of rare and curious and costly objects. After her first hasty examination of the rooms, Ozma began to wonder which of all the numerous ornaments they contained were the transformations of the royal family of Ev. There was nothing to guide her, for everything seemed without a spark of life. So she must guess blindly, and for the first time the girl came to realize how dangerous was her task, and how likely she was to lose her own freedom in striving to free others from the bondage of the Gnome King. No wonder the cunning monarch laughed good-naturedly with his visitors, when he knew how easily they might be entrapped. But Ozma, having undertaken the venture, would not abandon it. She looked at a silver candelabra that had 10 branches and thought, "This may be the Queen of Ev and her 10 children." So she touched it and uttered aloud the word Ev, as the Gnome King had instructed her to do when she guessed. But the candelabra remained as it was before. Then she wandered into another room and touched a china lamp, thinking it might be one of the children she sought. But again she was unsuccessful. 3 guesses, 4 guesses, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 she made, and still not one of them was right. The girl shivered a little and grew pale even under the rosy light, for now but one guess remained, and her own fate depended upon the result. She resolved not to be hasty, and strolled through all the rooms once more, gazing earnestly upon the various ornaments and trying to decide which she would touch. Finally, in despair, she decided to leave it entirely to chance. She faced the doorway of her room, shut her eyes tightly, and then, thrusting aside the heavy draperies, she advanced blindly with her right arm outstretched before her. Slowly, softly, she crept forward until her hand came in contact with an object upon a small round table. She did not know what it was, but in a low voice she pronounced the word, Ev. The rooms were quite empty of life after that. The Gnome King had gained a new ornament, for upon the edge of the table rested a pretty grasshopper that seemed to have been formed from a single emerald. It was all that remained of Ozma of Oz. In the throne room just beyond the palace, the Gnome King suddenly looked up and smiled. "Next," he said in his pleasant voice. Dorothy, the Scarecrow, and the Tin Woodsman, who had been sitting in anxious silence, each gave a start of dismay and stared into one another's eyes. "Has she failed?" asked Tik-Tok. "So it seems," answered the little monarch cheerfully. "But that is no reason one of you should not succeed. The next one may have 12 guesses instead of 11, for there are now 12 persons transformed into ornaments. Well, well, which one of you goes next?" "I'll go," said Dorothy. "Not so," replied the Tin Woodsman. a commander of Ozma's army, it is my privilege to follow her and attempt her rescue." "Away you go then," said the Scarecrow, "but be careful, old friend." "I will," promised the Tin Woodsman, and then he followed the Gnome King to the entrance to the palace, and the rock closed behind him. This is a cliffhanger, isn't it? We have to hope that our friends make it out. The Gnome King laughs. In a moment, the king returned to his throne and relighted his pipe, and the rest of the little band of adventurers settled themselves for another long wait. They were greatly disheartened by the failure of their girl ruler and the knowledge that she was now an ornament in the Gnome King's palace. A dreadful, creepy place in spite of all its magnificence. Without their little leader, they did not know what to do next, and each one, down to the trembling private of the army, began to fear that he would soon be more ornamental than useful. Suddenly the Gnome King began laughing. "Ha ha ha! Hee hee hee! Ho ho ho!" "What's happened?" asked the Scarecrow. "Why, your friend the Tin Woodsman has become the funniest thing you can imagine," replied the king, wiping the tears of merriment from his eyes. "No one would ever believe he would make such an amazing ornament. Next!" They gazed at each other with sinking hearts. One of the generals began to weep dolefully. "What are you crying for?" asked the Scarecrow, indignant with such a display of weakness. "He owed me 6 weeks back pay," said the general, "and I hate to lose him." "Then you shall go and find him," declared the Scarecrow. "Me!" cried the general, greatly alarmed. "Certainly. It is your duty to follow your commander. March." "I won't," said the general. "I'd like to, of course, but I just simply can't." The Scarecrow looked inquiringly at the Gnome King. "Never mind," said the jolly monarch. "If he doesn't care to enter the palace and make his guests, I'll throw him into one of my fiery furnaces." "I'll go! Of course I'll go!" yelled the general, as quick as Seep. "Where is the entrance? Where is it? Let me go at once." So the Gnome King escorted him into the palace, and again returned to await the results. What the general did, no one can tell, but it was not long before the king called for the next victim, and a colonel was forced to try his fortune. Thus, one after another, all the 26 officers filed into the palace and made their guesses, and became ornaments. Meantime, the king ordered refreshments to be served to those waiting. At his command, a rudely shaped gnome entered bearing a tray. This gnome was not unlike the others that Dorothy had seen, but he wore a heavy gold chain around his neck to show that he was the chief steward of the Gnome King, and he assumed an air of much importance, and even told his majesty not to eat too much cake late at night, or he would be ill. Dorothy, however, was hungry, and she was not afraid of being ill, so she ate several cakes and found them good, and also she drank a cup of excellent coffee made of a richly flavored clay, ground in the furnaces and then ground fine, and found it most refreshing and not at all muddy. Of all the party which had started upon this adventure, the little Kansas girl was now left alone with the Scarecrow, Tik-Tok, and the private for counselors and companions. Of course, the Cowardly Lion and the Hungry Tiger were still there, but they, having also eaten some of the cakes, had gone to sleep at one side of the cave, while upon the other side stood the Sawhorse, motionless and silent, as become a thing of wood. Billina had quietly walked around and picked up the crumbs of cake which had been scattered, and now, as it was long after bedtime, she tried to find some dark place in which to go to sleep. Presently the hen espied a hollow underneath the king's rocky throne, and crept into it unnoticed. She could still hear the chattering of those around her, but it was almost dark underneath the throne, and that soon she had fallen asleep. "Next," called the king, and the private, whose turn it was to enter the fatal palace, shook hands with Dorothy and the Scarecrow, and bade them a sorrowful goodbye, and passed through the rocky portal. They waited a long time for the private, was in no hurry to become an ornament, and made his guesses very slowly. The Gnome King, who seemed to know by some magical power all that took place in his beautiful rooms of his palace, grew impatient finally and declared he would sit up no longer. "I love ornaments," he said, "but I can wait until tomorrow to get more of them. So, as soon as that stupid private is transformed, we will all go to bed and leave the job to be finished in the morning." "Is it so very late?" asked Dorothy. Why, it is after midnight, said the king, and that strikes me as being late enough. There is neither night nor day in my kingdom, because it is under the earth's surface, where the sun does not shine. Well, we have to sleep just the same as the upstairs people do, and for my part, I'm going to bed in a few minutes. Indeed, it was not long after this that the private made his last guess. Of course he guessed wrongly, and of course he at once became an ornament. So the king was greatly pleased and clapped his hands to summon the chief steward. Show these guests to some of the sleeping apartments, he commanded, and be quick about it, too, for I'm dreadfully sleepy myself. You've no business to sit up so late, replied the steward gruffly. You'll be as cross as a griffin tomorrow morning. His Majesty made no answer to this remark, and the chief steward led Dorothy through another doorway into a long hall, through which several plain but comfortable sleeping rooms opened. The little girl was given the first room, and the Scarecrow and Tik-Tok the next, although they never slept, and the Lion and the Tiger the third. The Sawhorse hobbled after the steward into the fourth room, to stand stiffly in the center of it until morning. Each night was rather a bore to the Scarecrow, Tik-Tok, and the Sawhorse, but they had learned from experience to pass the time patiently and quietly, since all their friends who were made of flesh had to sleep and did not like to be disturbed. When the chief steward had left them alone, the Scarecrow remarked sadly, I am in great sorrow over the loss of my old comrade, the Tin Woodsman. We have had many dangerous adventures together, and escaped them all, and now it grieves me to know that he has become an ornament, and has lost me forever. He was always an ornament to society, said Tik-Tok. True, but now the Gnome King laughs at him, and calls him the funniest ornament in all the palace. It will hurt my poor friend's pride to be laughed at, continued the Scarecrow sadly. We will make rather absurd ornaments ourselves tomorrow, observed the machine in his monotonous voice. Just then Dorothy ran into the room in a state of great anxiety, crying, Where's Billina? Have you seen Billina? Is she here? No, answered the Scarecrow. Then what has become of her? Asked the girl. Why, I thought she was with you, said the Scarecrow. Yet I do not remember seeing the yellow hen since she picked up the crumbs of the cake. We must have left her in the room where the king's throne is, decided Dorothy, and at once she turned and ran down the hall to the door through which they had entered. But it was fast closed and locked on the other side, and the heavy slab of rock proved to be so thick that no one could pass through it. So Dorothy was forced to return to her chambers. The Cowardly Lion stuck his head into her room to try to console the girl for the loss of her feathered friend. The yellow hen is well able to take care of herself, said he, so don't worry about her, but try to get all the sleep you can. It has been a long and weary day, and you need rest. I'll probably get lots of rest tomorrow when I become an ornament, said Dorothy sleepily. But she lay down upon her couch, nevertheless, and in spite of all her worries, was soon in the land of dreams. Dorothy tries to be brave. Meantime, the chief steward had returned to the throne room, where he said to the king, You are a fool to waste so much time upon these people. What? Cried his Majesty in so enraged a voice that it awoke Billina, who was asleep under his throne. How dare you call me a fool? Because I like to speak the truth, said the steward. Why didn't you enchant them all at once instead of allowing them to go one by one into the palace and guess which ornaments are the Queen of Ev and her children? Why, you stupid rascal, it is more fun this way, returned the king, and it serves to keep me amused for a long time. But suppose one of them happens to guess right, persisted the steward. Then you would lose your ornaments and these new ones, too. There's no chance of their guessing right, replied the monarch with a laugh. How could they know that the Queen of Ev and her family are all ornaments of a royal purple color? But there are no other purple ornaments in the palace, said the steward. There are many other colors, however, and the purple ones are scattered throughout the rooms and are of many different shapes and sizes. Take my word for it, steward. They will never think of choosing the purple ornaments. Billina, squatting under the throne, had listened carefully to all this talk, and now chuckled softly to herself as she heard the king disclose his secret. Still, you are acting foolishly by running the chance, continued the steward roughly, and it is still more foolish of you to transform all those people from Oz into green ornaments. I did that because they came from the Emerald City, replied the king, and I had no green ornaments in my collection until now. I think they will look quite pretty mixed with the others, don't you? Stuart gave an angry grunt. Have your own way, since you are the king, he growled. But if you come to grief through your carelessness, remember that I told you so. If I wore the magic belt which enables you to work all your transformations, and gives you so much other power, I'm sure I'd make a much wiser and better king than you are. Oh, cease your tiresome chatter, commanded the king, getting angry again. Because you are the chief steward, you have an idea you can scold me as much as you please. The very next time you become impudent, I will send you to work in the furnaces and get another gnome to fill your place. Now follow me to my chamber, for I am going to bed, and see that I am awakened early tomorrow morning. I'm going to enjoy the fun of transforming the rest of these people into ornaments. What color will you make the Kansas girl? Asked the steward. Gray, I think, said His Majesty. And the Scarecrow and the Machine Man? Oh, they shall be of solid gold, because they are so ugly in real life. Then the voices died away, and Bellina knew that the king and his steward had left the room. She fixed up some of her tail feathers that were not straight, and then tucked her head under her wing again and went to sleep. In the morning, Dorothy and the lion and tiger were given their breakfast in their rooms, and afterward joined the king in his throne room. The tiger complained bitterly that he was half-starved, and begged to go into the palace and become an ornament so that he would no longer suffer the pangs of hunger. Haven't you had your breakfast? Asked the Gnome King. Oh, I had just a bite, replied the beast. But what good is a bite to a hungry tiger? He ate 17 bowls of porridge, a platter full of fried sausages, 11 loaves of bread, and 21 mince pies, said the steward. What more do you want? Demanded the king. A fat baby. I want a fat baby, said the hungry tiger. A nice, plump, juicy, tender, fat baby. But of course, if I had one, my conscience would not allow me to eat it. So I'll have to be an ornament and forget my hunger. Impossible, exclaimed the king. I'll have no clumsy beasts enter my palace to overturn and break all my pretty knickknacks. When the rest of your friends are transformed, you can return to the upper world and go about your business. As for that, we have no business when our friends are gone, said the lion. So we do not care much what becomes of us. Dorothy begged to be allowed to go first into the palace, but Tik-Tok firmly maintained that the slave should face danger before the mistress. The Scarecrow agreed with him in that, so the Gnome King opened the door for the Machine Man, who tramped into the palace to meet his fate. Then His Majesty returned to his throne and puffed his pipe, so contentedly that a small cloud of smoke formed above his head. By and by he said, I'm sorry there are so few of you left. Very soon now my fun will be over, and then for amusement I shall have nothing to do but admire my new ornaments. It seems to me, said Dorothy, that you are not so honest as you pretend to be. How's that? Asked the king. Why, you made us think that it would be easy to guess what ornaments the people of Ed were changed into. It is easy, declared the monarch, if one is a good guesser. But it appears that the members of your party are all poor guessers. What is Tik-Tok doing now? Asked the girl uneasily. Nothing, replied the Gnome King with a frown. He is standing perfectly still in the middle of a room. Oh, I expect he's run down, said Dorothy. I forgot to wind him up this morning. How many guesses has he made? All that he is allowed except one, answered the king. Suppose you go in and wind him up, and then you can stay there and make your own guesses. All right, said Dorothy. It is my turn next, declared the Scarecrow. Why, you don't want to go away and leave me all alone, do you? Asked the girl. Besides, if I go now, I can wind up Tik-Tok so he can make his last guess. Very well then, said the Scarecrow with a sigh. Run along, little Dorothy, and may good luck go with you. So Dorothy, trying to be brave in spite of her fears, passed through the doorway into the gorgeous rooms of the palace. The stillness of the place awed her at first, and the child drew short breaths, pressed her hand to her heart, and looked all around with wondering eyes. Yes, it was a beautiful place, but enchantments lurked in every nook and corner, and she had not yet grown accustomed to the wizardries of these fairy countries, so different from the quiet and sensible commonplaces of her own native land. Slowly she passed through several rooms until she came upon Tik-Tok standing motionless. It really seemed then that she had found a friend in this mysterious palace, so she hastened to wind up the Machine Man's actions and speech and thoughts. Thank you, Dorothy, were the first words. I have now one more guess to make. Oh, be very careful, Tik-Tok, won't you? Cried the girl. Yes, but the Gnome King has us in his power, and he has set a trap for us. I fear we are all lost," he answered. "I fear so too," said Dorothy sadly. "If Smith and Tinker had given me a guessing clockwork attachment," continued Tick-Tock, "I might have defied the Gnome King, but my thoughts are plain and simple, and are not of much use in this case." "Do the best you can," said Dorothy encouragingly, "and if you fail, I will watch and see what shape you are changed into." So Tick-Tock touched a yellow glass vase that had daisies painted on one side, and he spoke at the same time the word Ev. In a flash the machine man had disappeared, and although the girl looked quickly in every direction, she could not tell which of the many ornaments the room contained had a moment before been her faithful friend and servant. So all she could do was to accept the hopeless task set her, and make her guesses and abide by the result. "It can't hurt very much," she thought, "for I haven't heard any of them scream or cry out, not even the poor officers. Dear me, I wonder if Uncle Henry or Aunt Em will ever know I have become an ornament in the Gnome King's palace. I must stand forever and ever in one place and look pretty. So grown I move to be dusted. It isn't the way I thought I'd turn out at all, but I suppose it can't be helped." She walked through all the rooms once more and examined with care all the objects they contained. But there were so many they bewildered her, and she decided after all, as Ozma had done, that it could be only guesswork at the best, and that the chances were much against her guessing all right. Timidly she touched an alabaster bowl and said, "Ev." "That's one failure anyhow," she thought. "But how am I to know which thing is enchanted and which is not?" She touched the image of a purple kitten that stood at the corner of a mantel, and as she pronounced the word Ev, the kitten disappeared, and a pretty fair-haired boy stood beside her. At the same time a bell rang somewhere in the distance, and as Dorothy started back, partly in surprise and partly in joy, the little one exclaimed, "Where am I? And who are you? And what has happened to me?" "Well, I declare," said Dorothy, "I've really done it." "Done what?" asked the boy. "Saved myself from being an ornament," replied the girl with a laugh, "and saved you from being forever a purple kitten." "A purple kitten," he repeated. "There is no such thing." "I know," she answered, "but there was a minute ago. Don't you remember standing on a corner of the mantel?" "Of course not. I am a Prince of Ev, and my name is Evring," the little one announced proudly. "But my father, the king, sold my mother and all her children to the cruel ruler of the gnomes, and after that I remember nothing at all." "A purple kitten can't be expected to remember, Evring," said Dorothy. "But now you are yourself again, and I'm going to try and save some of your brothers and sisters, and perhaps your mother as well. So come with me." She seized the child's hand and eagerly hurried here and there, trying to decide which object to choose next. The third guess was another failure, and so was the fourth and the fifth. Little Evring could not imagine what she was doing, but he trotted along beside her very willingly, for he liked the new companion he had found. Dorothy's further quest proved unsuccessful, but after her first disappointment was over, the little girl was filled with joy and thankfulness to think that after all she had been able to save one member of the royal family of Ev, and could restore the little prince to his sorrowing country. Now she might return to the Gnome King in safety, carrying with her the prize she had won in the person of a fair-haired boy. So she retraced her steps until she found the entrance to the palace, and as she approached, the massive doors of rock opened of their own accord, allowing both Dorothy and Evring to pass the portals and enter the throne room. Billina frightens the Gnome King. Now when Dorothy had entered the palace to make her guesses, and the Scarecrow was left with the Gnome King, the two sat in moody silence for several minutes. Then the monarch exclaimed in a tone of satisfaction, "Very good." "Who is very good?" asked the Scarecrow. "The machine man. He won't need to be wound up anymore, for he has now become a very neat ornament." "Very neat indeed." "How about Dorothy?" the Scarecrow inquired. "Oh, she will begin to guess pretty soon," said the king cheerfully. "And then she will join my collection, and it will be your turn." The good Scarecrow was much distressed by the thought that his little friend was about to suffer the fate of Ozma and the rest of their party. But while he sat in gloomy reverie, a shrill voice suddenly cried, "Cut, cut, cut! Kada cut! Cut, cut, cut! Kada cut!" The Gnome King nearly jumped off his seat, he was so startled. "Good gracious, what's that?" he yelled. "Why, it's Billina," said the Scarecrow. "What do you mean by making a noise like that?" shouted the king angrily, and as the yellow hen came from under the throne and strutted proudly about the room. "I've got a right to cackle, I guess," replied Billina. "I've just laid my egg." "What? Laid an egg? In my throne room? How dare you do such a thing?" asked the king in a voice of fury. "I lay eggs wherever I happen to be," said the hen, ruffling her feathers and then shaking them into place. "But, thunderation, don't you know that eggs are poison?" roared the king, while his rock-colored eyes struck out in great terror. "Poison? Well, I declare," said Billina indignantly. "I'll have you know all my eggs are warranted, strictly fresh and up to date. Poison indeed." "You don't understand," retorted the little monarch nervously. "Eggs belong only to the outside world, and to the world on the Earth's surface, where you came from. Here in my underground kingdom they are rank poison, as I said, and we gnomes can't bear them around." "Well, you'll have to bear this one around," declared Billina, "for I've laid it." "Where?" asked the king. "Under your throne," said the hen. The king jumped 3 feet into the air, so anxious was he to get away from the throne. Take it away at once," he shouted. "I can't," said Billina. "I haven't any hands." "I'll take the egg," said the Scarecrow. "I'm making a collection of Billina's eggs. There's one in my pocket now that she laid yesterday." Hearing this, the monarch hastened to put a good distance between himself and the Scarecrow, who was about to reach under the throne for the egg when the hen suddenly cried, "Stop!" "What's wrong?" asked the Scarecrow. "Don't take the egg unless the king will allow me to enter the palace and guess as the others have done," said Billina. "Pshaw!" returned the king. "You're only a hen. How could you guess my enchantments?" "I can try, I suppose," said Billina. "And if I fail, you will have another ornament." "A pretty ornament you'd make, wouldn't you?" growled the king. "But you shall have your way. It will properly punish you for daring to lay an egg in my presence. After the Scarecrow is enchanted, you shall follow him into the palace. But how will you touch the objects?" "With my claws," said the hen, "and I can speak the word Ev as plainly as anyone. Also, I must have the right to guess the enchantments of my friends and to release them if I succeed." "Very well," said the king. "You have my promise." "Then," said Billina to the Scarecrow, "you may get the egg." He knelt down and reached underneath the throne and found the egg, which he placed in another pocket of his jacket, fearing that if both eggs were in one pocket they would knock together and get broken. Just then a bell above the throne rang briskly, and the king gave another nervous jump. "Well, well," said he with a rueful face, "the girl has actually done it." "Done what?" asked the Scarecrow. "She has made one guess that is right and broken one of my neatest enchantments. By rickety, it's too bad. I never thought she would do it." "Do I understand that she will now return to us in safety?" inquired the Scarecrow, joyfully wrinkling his painted face into a broad smile. "Of course," said the king, fretfully pacing up and down the room. "I always keep my promises, no matter how foolish they are. But I shall make an ornament of the yellow hen to replace the one I have just lost." "Perhaps you will, and perhaps you won't," murmured the Billina calmly. "I may surprise you by guessing right." "Guessing right?" snapped the king. "How should you guess right where your betters have failed, you stupid fowl?" Billina did not care to answer this question, and a moment later the doors flew open and Dorothy entered, leading the little Prince Evering by the hand. The Scarecrow welcomed the girl with a close embrace, and he would have embraced Evering too in his delight. But the little prince was shy and shrank away from the painted Scarecrow because he did not yet know his many excellent qualities. But there was little time for the friends to talk because the Scarecrow must now enter the palace. Dorothy's success had greatly encouraged him, and they both hoped he would manage to make at least one correct guess. However, he proved as unfortunate as the others, except Dorothy, and although he took a good deal of time to select his objects, not one did the poor Scarecrow guess right. So he became a solid gold card receiver, and the beautiful but terrible palace awaited its next visitor. "It's all over," remarked the king with a sigh of satisfaction. "And it has been a very amusing performance, except for the one good guess the Kansas girl made. I enrich her by a great many pretty ornaments." "It is my turn now," said Billina briskly. "Oh, I'd forgotten you," said the king. "But you needn't go if you don't wish to. I will be generous and let you off." "No, you won't," replied the hen. "I insist upon having my guesses, as you promised." "Then go ahead, you absurd feathered fool," grumbled the king, and he caused the opening that led to the palace to appear once more. "Don't go, Billina," said Dorothy earnestly. "It isn't easy to guess which ornaments, and only luck saved me from being one myself. Stay with me, and we'll go back to the land of Ev together. I'm sure this little prince will give us a home." "Indeed I will," said Evering, with much dignity. "Don't worry, my dear," cried Billina, with a cluck that was meant for a laugh. "I may not be human, but I'm no fool if I am a chicken." "Oh, Billina," said Dorothy, "you haven't been a chicken in a long time. Not since you've been grown up." "Perhaps that's true," answered Billina thoughtfully. "But if a Kansas farmer sold me to someone, what would he call me, a hen or a chicken?" "You are not a Kansas farmer, Billina," replied the girl. "And you said—" "Never mind that, Dorothy. I'm going. I won't say goodbye because I'm coming back. Keep up your courage, for I'll see you in a little bit." Then Billina gave several loud cluck-clucks that seemed to make the fat little king more nervous than ever, and marched over through the entrance into the enchanted palace. "Hope I've seen the last of that bird," declared the monarch, seating himself upon his throne and mopping the perspiration from his forehead with his rock-colored handkerchief. "Hens are bothersome enough at their best, but when they talk, they're simply dreadful." "Billina's my friend," said Dorothy quietly. "She may not always be exactly polite, but she means well, I'm sure." Purple, green, and gold. The yellow hen, stepping high and with an air of vast importance, walked slowly over the rich velvet carpets of the splendid palace, examining everything she met with her sharp little eyes. Billina had a right to feel important, for she alone shared the Gnome King's secret and knew how to tell the objects that were transformed from those that had never been alive. She was very sure that her guesses would be correct, but before she began to make them, she was curious to behold all the magnificence of this underground palace, which was perhaps one of the most splendid and beautiful places in any fairyland. As she went through the rooms, she counted the purple ornaments, and although some were small and hidden in queer places, Billina spied them all and found the entire tent scattered around the various rooms. The green ornaments she did not bother to count, for she thought she could find them all when the time came. Finally, having made a survey of the entire palace and enjoyed its splendor, the yellow hen returned to one of the rooms where she had noticed a large purple footstool. She placed a claw upon this and said Ev, and at once the footstool vanished, and a lovely lady, tall and slender and most beautifully robed, stood before her. The lady's eyes were round with astonishment for a moment, for she could not remember her transformation, nor imagine what had restored her to life. "Good morning, ma'am," said Billina in her sharp voice. "You're looking quite well, considering your age." "Who speaks?" demanded the Queen of Ev, drawing herself up proudly. "Why, my name is Bill by rights," answered the hen, who was now perched upon the back of a chair. "Although Dorothy has put scallops on it and made it Billina. But the name doesn't matter. I've saved you from the Gnome King, and you are a slave no longer." "Then I thank you for the gracious favor," said the Queen, with a graceful curtsy. "But my children, tell me, I beg of you, where are my children?" And she clasped her hands in anxious entreaty. "Don't worry," advised Billina, pecking at a tiny bug that was crawling over the chair back. "Just at present they are out of mischief and perfectly safe, for they can't even wiggle." "What mean you, O kind stranger?" asked the Queen, striving to repress her anxiety. "They're enchanted," said Billina, "just as you have been. All that is, except the little fellow Dorothy picked out. And the chances are that they have been good boys and girls for some time because they couldn't help it." "Oh, my poor darlings," cried the Queen with a sob of anguish. "Not at all," returned the hen. "Don't let their condition make you unhappy, ma'am, because I'll soon have them crowded round to bother and worry you naturally as ever. Come with me, if you please, and I'll show you how pretty they look. She flew down from her perch and walked into the next room, the queen following. As she passed a low table, a small green grasshopper caught her eye, and instantly Billina pounced upon it and snapped it with a sharp bill. For grasshoppers are a favorite food with hens, and they usually must be caught quickly before they can hop away. It might easily have been the end of Ozma of Oz had she been a real grasshopper instead of an emerald one. But Billina found the grasshopper hard and lifeless, and suspecting it was not good to eat, she quickly dropped it instead of letting it slide down her throat. I might have known better, she muttered to herself, for where there is no grass, there can be no live grasshoppers. This is probably one of the king's transformations. A moment later, she approached one of the purple ornaments, and while the queen watched her curiously, as the hen broke the Gnome King's enchantments, a sweet-faced girl, whose golden hair fell in a cloud over her shoulders, stood beside them. "Ivana," cried the queen, "my own Ivana," and she clasped the girl to her bosom and covered her face with kisses. "That's all right," said Billina contentedly. "Am I a good guesser, Mr. Gnome King? Well, I guess." Then she disenchanted another child, whom the queen addressed as Everest, and afterwards a boy named Evardo, who was older than his brother Evering. Indeed, the queen hen kept the good queen exclaiming and embracing for some time, until 5 princesses and 4 princes, all looking very much alike except for the difference in size, stood in a row beside their happy mother. The princes were named Ivana, Everest, Evella, Everine, Evedna, while the princes were Everub, Evington, Evardo, and Evroland. Of these, Evardo was the eldest and would inherit his father's throne and be crowned king of Ev when he returned to his country. He was a grace and quiet youth, and would doubtless rule his people wisely and with justice. Billina, having restored all the royal family of Ev to their proper form, now began to select the green ornaments, which were the transformations of the people of Oz. She had little trouble in finding these, and before long all the 26 officers, as well as the private, were gathered around the yellow hen, joyfully congratulating her upon their release. The 37 people who were now alive in the rooms of the palace knew very well that they owed their freedom to the cleverness of the yellow hen, and were earnest in thanking her for her saving them from the magic of the Gnome King. "Now," said Billina, "I must find Ozma. She is sure to be here somewhere, and of course she is green, being from Oz. So look around, you stupid soldiers, and help me in my search." For a while, however, they could discover nothing more that was green. But the queen, who had kissed all her 9 children once more, and could now find time to take an interest in what was going on, said to the hen, "Mayhaps, my gentle friend, it is the grasshopper whom you seek." "Of course it's the grasshopper," exclaimed Billina. "I declare I'm nearly as stupid as these brave soldiers. Wait here for me, and I'll go back and get it." So she went into the room where she had seen the grasshopper, and presently Ozma of Oz, as lovely and dainty as ever, entered and approached the Queen of Ev, greeted her as one highborn princess greets another. "But where are my friends, the Scarecrow and the Tin Woodman?" asked the Queen Girl Ruler, when the curtsies had been exchanged. "I'll hunt them up," replied Billina. "The Scarecrow is solid gold, and so is Tik-Tok. But I don't know exactly what the Tin Woodsman is, because the Gnome King said he had been transformed into something funny." Ozma eagerly assisted the hen in her quest, and soon the Scarecrow and the Machine Man, being ornaments of shining gold, were discovered and restored to their accustomed forms. But, search as they might, in no place could they find a funny ornament that might be the transformation of the Tin Woodsman. "Only one thing can be done," said Ozma at last, and that is to return to the Gnome King and oblige him to tell us what has become of our friend. "Perhaps he won't," suggested Billina. "He must," replied Ozma firmly. "The king has not treated us honestly, for under the mask of fairness and good nature he entrapped us all, and we would have been forever enchanted had not our wise and clever friend the Yellow Hen found a way to save us." "The king is a villain," declared the Scarecrow. "His laugh is worse than another man's frown," said the private with a shudder. "I thought he was honest, but I was mistaken," remarked Tik-Tok. "My thoughts are usually correct, but it is Smith and Tinker's fault if they sometimes go wrong or do not work properly." "Smith and Tinker made a very good job of you," said Ozma kindly. "I do not think they should be blamed if you are not perfect." "Thank you," replied Tik-Tok. "Then," said Billina in her brisk little voice, "let us all go back to the Gnome King and see what he has to say for himself." So they started for the entrance, Ozma going first, with the queen and her train of little princes and princesses following. Then came Tik-Tok and the Scarecrow, Billina perched upon his straw-stuffed shoulders. The 27 officers and the private brought up the rear. As they reached the hall, the doors flew open before them, but then they all stopped and stared into the domed cavern with faces of astonishment. For the room was filled with the mail-clad warriors of the Gnome King, rank after rank standing in orderly array. The electric lights upon their brows gleamed brightly. Their battle axes were poised as if to strike down their foes. They remained motionless as statues, awaiting the word of command. And in the center of this terrible army sat the little king upon his throne of rock. But he neither smiled nor laughed. Instead, his face was distorted with rage and most dreadful to behold. The Scarecrow wins the fight. After Billina had entered the palace, Dorothy and Evering sat down to await the success or failure of her mission, and the Gnome King occupied his throne and smoked his long pipe for a while in a cheerful and contented mood. Then the bell above the throne, which sounded whenever an enchantment was broken, began to ring, and the king gave a start of annoyance and exclaimed, "Rockety rickets!" When the bell rang a second time, the king shouted angrily, "Smudge and blazes!" And at the third ring, he screamed in fury, "Hippocaloric!" which must be a dreadful word because we don't know what it means. After that, the bell went on ringing time after time, but the king was now so violently enraged that he could not utter a word, but hopped out of his throne and all around the room in a mad frenzy, so that he reminded Dorothy of a jumping cat. The girl was, for her part, filled with joy at every peal of the bell, for it announced the fact that Billina had transformed one more ornament into a living person. Dorothy was also amazed at Billina's success, for she could not imagine how the Yellow Hen was able to guess correctly all the bewildering number of articles clustered in the rooms of the palace. But after she had counted 10, and the bell continued to ring, she knew that not only the royal family of heaven, but Ozma and her followers were also being restored to their natural forms, and she was so delighted that the antics of the angry king only made her laugh merrily. Perhaps the little monarch could not be more furious than he was before, but the girl's laughter nearly drove him frantic, and he roared at her like a savage beast. Then he found that all his enchantments were likely to be dispelled and his victims every one set free. He suddenly rang to the little door that opened upon the balcony and gave a shrill whistle that summoned his warriors. At once the army filed out of the gold and silver doors in great numbers, and marched up a winding stair and into the throne room, led by a stern-featured gnome who had their captain. When they had nearly filled the throne room, they formed ranks in the big underground cavern below, and then stood still until they were told what to do next. Dorothy had pressed back to one side of the cavern when the warriors entered, and now she stood holding little Prince Evering's hand while the great lion crouched upon one side, and the enormous tiger crouched on the other side. "Seize that girl!" shouted the king to his captain, and a group of warriors sprang forward to obey. But both the lion and tiger snarled so fiercely, and baring their sharp teeth so threateningly, the men drew back in alarm. "Don't mind them," cried the Gnome King. "They cannot leap beyond the places where they now stand. But they can bite those who attempt to touch the girl," said the captain. "I'll fix that," answered the king. "I'll enchant them again so that they can't open their jaws." He stepped out of the throne to do this. He stepped out of the throne to do this, but just then the sawhorse ran up behind him and gave the fat monarch a powerful kick with both his wooden hind legs. "Ow! Murder! Treason!" yelled the king, who had been hurled against several of his warriors and was considerably bruised. "Who did that?" "I did," vowed the sawhorse victoriously. "You let Dorothy alone or I'll kick you again." "We'll see about that," replied the king, and once he waved his hand towards the sawhorse and muttered a magical word. "Aha," he continued. "Now let us see you move, you wooden mule." But in spite of the magic, the sawhorse moved, and he moved so quickly towards the king that the fat little man could not get out of his way. Thump! Bang! Came the wooden heels right against his round body, and the king flew into the air and fell upon the head of his captain, who let him drop flat upon the ground. Well, well, said the king, sitting up, looking surprised. Why didn't my magic belt work, I wonder? The creature is made of wood, replied the captain. Your magic will not work on wood, you know. Ah, I'd forgotten that, said the king, getting up and limping to his throne. Very well, let the little girl alone. She can't escape us anyway. The warriors, who had been rather confused by these incidents, now formed their ranks again, and the stalwart pranced across the room to Dorothy and took a position beside the hungry tiger. At that moment, the doors that led to the palace flew open, and the people of Ev and the people of Oz were disclosed to view. They paused, astonished, at the sight of the warriors and the angry Gnome King seated in their midst. Surrender, cried the king in a loud voice. You are my prisoners. Go long, answered Billina from the Scarecrow's shoulder. You promised me that if I guessed correctly, my friends and I might depart in safety, and you always keep your promises. I said you might leave the palace in safety, retorted the king. And so you may, but you cannot leave my dominions. You are my prisoners, and I will hurl you all into my underground dungeons, where the volcanic fires glow, and the molten lava flows in every direction, and the air is hotter than blue blazes. That will be the end of me, all right, said the Scarecrow sorrowfully. One small blaze, blue or green, is enough to reduce me to an ash heap. Do you surrender? Demanded the king. Billina whispered something in the Scarecrow's ear that made him smile. He put his hands in his jacket pockets. No, returned Ozma, boldly answering the king. Then she said to her army, Forward, my brave soldiers, and fight for your ruler and yourself unto death. Pardon me, most royal Ozma, replied one of the generals, but I find that I and my brother officers all suffer from heart disease, and the slightest excitement might kill us. If we fight, we may get excited. Would it not be well for us to avoid this grave danger? Soldiers should not have heart disease, said Ozma. Private soldiers are not, I believe, afflicted that way, declared another general, twirling his mustache thoughtfully. If your royal highness desires, we will order our private to attack yonder warrior. Do so, replied Ozma. Forward, march, cried all the generals with one voice. Forward, march, yelled the colonels. Forward, march, shouted the majors. Forward, march, commanded the captains. And at that the private leveled his spear and dashed furiously upon the foe. The captain of the gnomes was so surprised by the sudden onslaught that he forgot to command his warriors to fight, so that the 10 men in front row, who stood in front of the soldier's spear, fell over like so many toy soldiers. The spear could not go through their steel armor, however, so the warriors scrambled to their feet again, and by that time the private had knocked over another row of them. Then the captain brought down his battle axe with such a strong blow that the private's spear was shattered and knocked from his grasp, and he was helpless to fight any longer. The Gnome King had left his throne and pressed through his warriors to the front ranks, so he could see what was going on. But as he faced Ozma and her friends the Scarecrow, as if aroused to action by the valor of the private, drew one of Billina's eggs from his right jacket pocket and hurled it straight at the little monarch's head. It struck him squarely in his left eye, where the egg smashed and scattered, as eggs will, and covered his face and hair and beard with its sticky contents. Help! Help! Screamed the king, clawing with his fingers at the egg in a struggle to remove it. An egg! Run for your lives! Shouted the captain of the gnomes in a voice of horror. And how they did run! The warriors fairly tumbled over one another in their efforts to escape fatal poison of that awful egg, and those who could not rush down the winding stair fell off the balcony onto the great cavern beneath, knocking over those who stood below them. Even while the king was still yelling for help, his throne room became emptied of every one of his warriors, and before the monarch had managed to clear the egg away from his left eye, the Scarecrow threw the second egg against his right eye, where it smashed and blinded him entirely. The king was unable to flee because he could not see which way to run, so he stood still and howled and shouted and screamed in abject fear. While this was going on, Billina flew over to Dorothy and perched herself upon the lion's back. The hen whispered eagerly to the girl, Get his belt. Get the Gnome King's jeweled belt. It unbuckles in the back. Quick, Dorothy, quick. The Fate of the Tin Woodsman. Dorothy obeyed. She ran at once behind the Gnome King, who was still trying to free his eyes from the egg, In a twinkling, she had unbuckled his splendid jeweled belt and carried it away with her to her place beside the tiger and lion, where, because she did not know what else to do with it, she fastened it around her own slim waist. Just then the chief steward rushed in with a sponge and a bowl of water and began mopping away the broken egg from his master's face. In a few minutes, and while all the party looked on, the king regained the use of his eyes, and the first thing he did was to glare wickedly upon the scarecrow and exclaim, "I'll make you suffer for this, you hay-stuffed dummy. Don't you know eggs are poison to gnomes?" "Really," said the scarecrow, "they don't seem to agree with you, though I wonder why." "They are strictly fresh and above suspicion," said Billina. "You ought to be glad to get them." "I'll transform you all into scorpions," cried the king angrily, and began waving his arms and muttering magic words. But none of the people became scorpions, so the king stopped and looked at them in surprise. "What's wrong?" he asked. "Why, you are not wearing a magic belt," replied the chief steward, after looking the king over carefully. "Carefully? Where is it? What have you done with it?" The Gnome King clapped his hands to his waist, and his rock-colored face turned white as chalk. "It's gone," he cried helplessly. "It's gone, and I am ruined." Dorothy now stepped forward and said, "Royal Ozma and you, Queen of Ev, I welcome you and your people back to the land of the living. Billina has saved you from your troubles, and now we will leave this dreadful place and return to Ev as soon as possible." While the child spoke, they could all see that she wore the magic belt, and a great cheer went up from her friends, which was led by the voices of the Scarecrow and the Private. But the Gnome King did not join them. He crept back onto his throne like a whipped dog, and lay there bitterly, bemoaning his defeat. "But we have not yet found my faithful follower, the Tin Woodsman," said Ozma to Dorothy, "and without him I do not wish to go away." "Nor I," replied Dorothy quickly. "Wasn't he in the palace?" "He must go there," said Billina, "but I had no clue to guide me in guessing the Tin Woodsman, so I must have missed him." "We will go back into the room," said Dorothy. "This magic belt, I am sure, will help us to find our dear old friend." So she re-entered the palace, the doors of which still stood open, and everyone followed her except the Gnome King, the Queen of Ev, and Prince Evering. The mother had taken the little prince in her lap and was fondling and kissing him lovingly, for he was the youngest born. But the others went with Dorothy, and when she came to the middle of the first room, the girl waved her hands, as she had seen the king do, and commanded the Tin Woodsman, whatever form he might have, to resume his proper shape. No result followed this attempt, so Dorothy went into another room and repeated it, and so through all the rooms of the palace. Yet the Tin Woodsman did not appear to them, nor could they imagine which among the thousands of ornaments was their transformed friend. Sadly, they returned to the throne room, where the king, seeing that they had met with failure, jeered at Dorothy, saying, "You do not know how to use my belt, so it is of no use to you. Give it back to me, and I will let you go free, you and the people who came with you. As for the royal family of Ev, they are my slaves and shall remain here." "I shall keep the belt," said Dorothy. "But how can you escape without my consent?" asked the king. "Easily enough. All we need to do is walk out the way we came in." "Oh, that's all, is it?" sneered the king. "Well, where is the passage through which you entered this room?" They all looked around, but could not discover the place, for it had long since been closed. Dorothy, however, would not be dismayed. She waved her hand toward the seemingly solid wall of the cavern and said, "I command the passage to open." Instantly the order was obeyed. The opening appeared, and the passage lay plainly before them. The king was amazed, and all the others overjoyed. Why then, if the belt obeys you, will we unable to discover the Tin Woodsman?" asked Ozma. "I can't imagine," said Dorothy. "See here, girl," proposed the king eagerly. "Give me the belt, and I will tell you what shape the King Woodsman was changed into. Then you can easily find him." Dorothy hesitated, but Billina cried out, "Don't you do it. If the Gnome King gets the belt again, he will make every one of us prisoners, for we will be in his power. Only by keeping the belt, Dorothy, will you ever be able to leave this place alive." "I think that is true," said the Scarecrow. "But I have another idea, due to my excellent brains. Let Dorothy transform the king into a goose egg, until he agrees to go into the palace and bring us the ornament which is our friend Nick Chopper, the Tin Woodsman." "A goose egg?" echoed the horrified king. "How dreadful." "Well, "A goose egg you will be unless you go and fetch us the ornament we want," declared Bellina with a joyful chuckle. "You can see for yourself that Dorothy is able to use the magic belt all right," added the Scarecrow. The Gnome King thought it over and finally consented, for he did not want to be a goose egg. So he went into the palace to get the ornament, which was the transformation of the Tin Woodsman, and they all waited his return with considerable impatience, for they were anxious to leave this underground cavern and see the sunshine once more. But when the Gnome King came back, he brought nothing with him except a puzzled and anxious expression upon his face. "He's gone," he said. "The Tin Woodsman is nowhere in the palace." "Are you sure?" asked Ozma sternly. "I'm very sure," answered the king, trembling, "for I know just what I transformed him into, and exactly where he stood. But he is not there, and please don't turn me into a goose egg, because I've done the best I could." They were all silent for a time, and then Dorothy said, "There is no use punishing the Gnome King anymore, and I'm afraid we'll have to go away without our friend." "If he is not here, we cannot rescue him," agreed the Scarecrow. "Poor Nick. I wonder what has become of him." "And he owed me 6 weeks' back pay," said one of the generals, wiping the tears from his eyes with his gold-laced coat sleeve. Very sorrowfully they determined to return to the upper world without their former companion, and so Ozma gave the order to begin the march through the passage. The army went first, and then the royal family of Ev, and afterward came Dorothy, Ozma, Bellina, the Scarecrow, and Tik-Tok. They left the Gnome King scowling at them from his throne, and had no thought of danger until Ozma chanced to look back and saw a large number of warriors following them in full chase, with their swords and spears and axes raised to strike down the fugitives as soon as they drew near enough. Evidently the Gnome King had made his last attempt to prevent their escaping him, but it did no good, for when Dorothy saw the danger they were in, she stopped and waved her hand and whispered a command to the magic belt. Instantly the foremost warriors became eggs, which rolled upon the floor of the cavern in such numbers that those behind them could not advance without stepping upon them. But when they saw the eggs, all desire to advance departed from the warriors, and they turned and fled madly into the cavern, and refused to go back again. Our friends had no further trouble in reaching the end of the passage, and soon were standing in the outer air upon the gloomy path between the two high mountains. But the way to Eve lay plainly between them, and they fervently hoped that they had seen the last of the Gnome King in his dreadful palace. The cavalcade was led by Ozma, mounted on the Cowardly Lion, and the Queen of Ev, who rode upon the back of the tiger. The children of the Queen walked behind her, hand in hand. Dorothy rode the Sawhorse, while the Scarecrow walked in command of the army in the absence of the Tin Woodman. Presently the way began to lighten, and more of the sunshine to come in between the two mountains. And long before they heard the thump, thump, thump of the giant's hammer upon the road. "How may we pass the monstrous man of iron?" asked the Queen, anxious for the safety of her children. But Dorothy solved the problem by a word to the magic bell. The giant paused, with his hammer held motionless in the air, thus allowing the entire party to pass between his cast iron legs in safety. The King of Ev. If there were any shifting, pot-colored gnomes on the mountainside now, they were silent and respectful, for our adventurers were not annoyed as before by their impudent laughter. Really, the gnomes had nothing to laugh at since the defeat of their king. On the other side, they found Ozma's golden chariot standing as they had left it. Soon the lion and the tiger were harnessed to the beautiful chariot, in which was enough room for Ozma and the Queen and 6 of the royal children. Little Evering preferred to ride with Dorothy upon the Sawhorse, which had a long path. The prince had recovered from his shyness and had become very fond of the girl who had rescued him, so they were fast friends and chatted pleasantly together as they rode along. Bellina was also perched upon the head of the wooden steed, which seemed not to mind the added weight in the least, and the boy was full of wonder that a hen could talk and say such sensible things. When they came to the gulf, Ozma's magic carpet carried them all over in safety, and now they began to pass the trees in which the birds were singing, and the breeze that had wafted to them from the farms of Ev was spicy with flowers and new-mown hay, and the sunshine fell upon them to warm them and drive away from their bodies the chill and dampness of the underground kingdom of the gnomes. "I would be quite content," said the Scarecrow to Tik-Tok, "were only the Tin Woodsman with us. but it breaks my heart to leave him behind. He was a fine fellow, replied Tick-Tock, although his material was not very durable. Oh, tin is an excellent material, the Scarecrow happened to say, and if anything ever happened to poor Nick Chopper, he was always easily soldered. Besides, he did not have to be wound up, and was not liable to get out of order. I sometimes wish, said Tick-Tock, that I was stuffed with straw, as you are. It is hard to be made of copper. I have no reason to complain of my lot, replied the Scarecrow. A little fresh straw now and then makes me good as new. But I can never be the polished gentleman that my poor departed friend, the Tin Woodsman, was. You may be sure the royal children of Ev and their queen mother were delighted at seeing again their beloved country, and when the towers of the palace of Ev came into view, they could not forbear cheering at the sight. Little Evring, riding in front of Dorothy, was so overjoyed that he took a curious tin whistle from his pocket and blew a shrill blast that made the Sawhorse leap and prance at sudden alarm. What is that? Asked Billina, who had been obliged to flutter her wings in order to keep her seat upon the head of the frightened Sawhorse. That's my whistle, said Prince Evring, holding it out in his hand. It was in the shape of a fat little pig made of tin and painted green. The whistle was in the tail of the pig. Where did you get it? Asked the Yellow Hen, closely examining the toy with his bright eyes. Why, I picked it up in the Gnome King's palace, said Dorothy. I picked it up in the Gnome King's palace while Dorothy was making her guesses, and I put it in my pocket, answered the little prince. Billina laughed, or at least she made the peculiar cackle that served for a laugh. No wonder I couldn't find the Tin Woodsman, she said, and no wonder the magic belt didn't make him appear, or the king couldn't find him either. What do you mean? Questioned Dorothy. Why, the prince had him in his pocket, cried Billina, cackling. I did not, protested the little Evering. I only took the whistle. Well then, watch me, returned the hen, and reaching out a claw, she touched the whistle and said, Ev. Good afternoon, said the Tin Woodsman, taking off his funnel cap and bowing to Dorothy and the prince. I think I must have been asleep for the first time since I was made out of tin, for I do not remember our leaving the Gnome King. You've been enchanted, answered the girl, throwing an arm around her old friend and hugging him tight in her joy. But it's all right now. I want my whistle, said the little prince, beginning to cry. Hush, cautioned Billina. The whistle is lost, but you may have another when you get home. The Scarecrow had fairly thrown himself upon the bosom of his old comrade. So surprised and delighted was he to see him again, and Tick-Tock squeezed the Tin Woodsman's hand so earnestly that he dented some of his fingers. Then they had to make way for Ozma to welcome the Tin Man, and the army caught sight of him and set up a cheer, and everybody was delighted and happy. For the Tin Woodsman was a great favorite with all who knew him, and his sudden recovery, after they had thought he was lost to them forever, was indeed a pleasant surprise. Before long, the cavalcade arrived at the royal palace, where a great crowd of people had gathered to welcome the queen and her 10 children. There was much shouting and cheering, and the people threw flowers in their path, and every face wore a happy smile. They found the Princess Langwidere in her mirrored chamber, where she was admiring one of her handsome heads, one with rich chestnut hair, dreamy walnut eyes, and a shapely hickory nut nose. She was very glad to be relieved of her duties to the people of Ev, and the queen graciously permitted her to retain her rooms and her cabinet of heads as long as she lived. This the queen took her eldest son out upon the balcony that overlooked the crowd of subjects gathered below, and said to them, Here is your future ruler, King Evardo, 15th. He is 15 years of age, has 15 silver buckles on his jacket, and is the 15th Evardo to rule the land of Ev. The people shouted their approval 15 times, and then even the Wheelers, some of whom were present, loudly promised to obey the new king. So the queen placed a big crown of gold set with rubies upon Evardo's head, and threw an ermine robe over his shoulders, and proclaimed him king. And he bowed gratefully to all his subjects, and then went away to see if he could find any cake in the royal pantry. Ozma of Oz and her people, as well as Dorothy, Tick-Tock, and Billina, were splendidly entertained by the Queen Mother, who owed all her happiness to their kind offices, and that evening the Yellow Hen was publicly presented with a beautiful necklace of pearls and sapphires, as a token of esteem from the new king. The Emerald City. Dorothy decided to accept Ozma's invitation to return with her to the land of Oz. There was no greater chance of her getting home from Ev than from Oz, and the little girl was anxious to see once more the country where she had encountered such wonderful adventures. I will be right back. Alright, sorry about that. Mom needed my help with something, so... Zozie, thank you for raiding. Welcome, everyone. I'm sorry you raided to a Be Right Back screen. How was your stream, Zozie? If you haven't visited Zozie before, and you enjoy reading, listening to me reading, you should go check her out. I cannot type. Hope you had a good stream. I appreciate you raiding. Okay, let us get back to our story. Dorothy decided to accept Ozma's invitation to return with her to the land of Oz. There was no greater chance of her getting home from Ev than from Oz, and the little girl was anxious to see once more the country which she had encountered such wonderful adventures. By this time Uncle Henry would have reached Australia in his ship, and had probably given her up for lost, so he couldn't worry any more than he did if she stayed away from him a while longer. So she would go to Oz. They bade goodbye to the people of Ev, and the king promised Ozma that he would ever be grateful to her and render the land of Oz any service that might lie within his power. And then they approached the edge of the dangerous desert, and Ozma threw down the magic carpet, which at once unrolled far enough for all of them to walk upon it without being crowded. Tik-Tok, claiming to be Dorothy's faithful follower because he belonged to her, had been permitted to join the party, and before they started, the girl wound up his machinery as far as possible, and the Copper Man stepped off as briskly as any of them. Ozma also invited Billina to visit the land of Oz, and the Yellow Hen was glad enough to go where new sights and scenes awaited her. They began the trip across the desert early in the morning, and as they stopped only long enough for Billina to lay her daily egg, before sunset they espied the green slopes and wooded hills of the beautiful land of Oz. They entered it in the Munchkin territory, and the king of the Munchkins met them at the border and welcomed Ozma with great respect, being very pleased by her safe return. For Ozma of Oz ruled the king of the Munchkins, the king of the Winkies, the king of the Quadlings, and the king of the Gilkins, just as those kings ruled their own people. And this supreme ruler of the land of Oz lived in a great town of her own called the Emerald City, which was in the exact center of the 4 kingdoms of the land of Oz. The Munchkin King entertained them at his palace that night, and in the morning they set out for the Emerald City, traveling over a road of yellow brick that led straight to the jewel-studded gates. Everywhere the people turned out to greet their beloved Ozma, and to hail joyfully the Scarecrow, the Tin Woodsman, and the Cowardly Lion, who were popular favorites. Dorothy, too, remembered some of the people who had befriended her on the occasion of her first visit to Oz, and they were well pleased to see the little Kansas girl again, and showered her with compliments and good wishes. At one place where they stopped to refresh themselves, Ozma accepted a bowl of milk from the hands of a pretty dairymaid. Then she looked at the girl more closely and exclaimed, "Why, it's Ginger, isn't it?" "Yes, Your Highness," was the reply, as Ginger dropped a low curtsy, and Dorothy looked wonderingly at this lively-appearing person who had once assembled an army of women and driven the Scarecrow from the throne of the Emerald City, and even fought a battle with the powerful army of Glinda the Sorceress. "I've married a man who owns 9 cows," said Ginger to Ozma, "and now I am happy and contented and willing to lead a quiet life and mind my own business." "Where is your husband?" asked Ozma. "He is in the house nursing a black eye," replied Ginger calmly. "The foolish man would insist upon milking the red cow when I wanted him to milk the white one, but he will know better next time, I am sure." Then the party moved on again, and after crossing a broad river on a ferry, and passing many fine farmhouses that were dome-shaped and painted a pretty green color, they came in sight of a large building that was covered with flags and bunting. "I don't remember that building," said Dorothy. "What is it?" "That is the College of Art and Athletic Perfection," replied Ozma. "I had it built quite recently, and the Wogglebug is its president. It keeps him busy, and the young men who attend the college are no worse off than they were before. You see, in this country are a number of youths who do not like to work, and the college is an excellent place for them." And now they came in sight of the Emerald City, and the people flocked out to greet their lovely ruler. There were several bands and many officers and officials of the realm, and a crowd of citizens in their holiday attire. Thus the beautiful Ozma was escorted by a brilliant procession to her royal city, and so great was the cheering that she was obliged to constantly bow to the right and left to acknowledge the greetings of her subjects. That evening there was a grand reception in the royal palace, attended by the most important persons of Oz and Jack Pumpkinhead, who was a little overripe but still active, read an address congratulating Ozma of Oz upon the success of her generous mission to rescue the royal family of a neighboring kingdom. Then magnificent gold medals set with precious stones were presented to each of the 26 officers, and the Tin Woodsman was given a new axe studded with diamonds, and the Scarecrow received a silver jar of complexion powder. Dorothy was presented with a pretty coronet and made a Princess of Oz, and Tik-Tok received 2 bracelets set with 8 rows of very clear and sparkling emeralds. Afterward they sat down to a splendid feast, and Ozma put Dorothy at her right and Billina at her left, where the hens sat upon a golden roost and ate from a jeweled platter. Then replaced the Scarecrow, the Tin Woodsman, and Tik-Tok with baskets of lovely flowers before them, because they did not require food. The 26 officers were at the lower end of the table, and the Lion and the Tiger also had seats, and were served on golden platters which held a half a bushel at one time. The wealthiest and most important citizens of the Emerald City were proud to wait upon these famous adventurers, and they were assisted by a sprightly little maid named Jellia Jam, whom the Scarecrow pinched upon her rosy cheeks and seemed to know very well. During the feast, Ozma grew thoughtful, and suddenly she asked, "Where's the private?" "Oh, he is sweeping out the barracks," replied one of the generals, who was busy eating a leg of turkey. "But I have ordered him a dish of bread and molasses to eat when his work is done." "Let him be sent for," said the girl ruler. While they waited for this command to be obeyed, she inquired, "Have we any other privates in the armies?" "Oh, yes," replied the Tin Woodsman. "I believe there are 3 altogether." The private now entered, saluting his officers and the royal Ozma very respectfully. "What is your name, my man?" asked the girl. "Omby Amby," answered the private. "Then, Omby Amby," said she, "I promote you to be Captain General of all the armies of my kingdom, and especially to be commander of my bodyguard at the royal palace." "It is very expensive to hold so many offices," said the private, hesitating. "I have no money with which to buy uniforms." "You shall be supplied from the royal treasury," said Ozma. And the private was given a seat at the table, where the other officers welcomed him cordially, and the feasting and merriment resumed. Suddenly Jellia Jam exclaimed, "There is nothing more to eat. The hungry tiger has consumed everything." "But that is not the worst of it," declared the tiger mournfully. "Somewhere or somehow, I've actually lost my appetite." Dorothy's Magic Belt. Dorothy passed several very happy weeks in the land of Oz as the guest of the royal Ozma, who delighted to please and interest the little Kansas girl. Many new acquaintances were formed, and many old ones renewed, and wherever she went, Dorothy found herself among friends. One day, however, as she sat in Ozma's private room, she noticed hanging upon the wall a picture which constantly changed in appearance, at one time showing a meadow and at another time a forest, a lake, or a village. "How curious," she exclaimed after watching the shifting scenes for a few moments. "Yes," said Ozma, "that is really a wonderful invention in magic. If you wish to see any part of the world or any person living, you need only express the wish, and it is shown in the picture." "May I use it?" asked Dorothy eagerly. "Of course, my dear." "Then I'd like to see the old Kansas farm and Aunt Em," said the girl. Instantly, the well-remembered farmhouse appeared in the picture, and Aunt Em could be seen quite plainly. She was engaged in washing dishes by the kitchen window and seemed quite well and contented. The hired men and the teams were in the harvest fields behind the house, and the corn and wheat seemed to be the child to be in, and the I can read. And the corn and wheat seemed to the child to be in prime condition. On the side porch, Dorothy's pet dog Toto was lying fast asleep in the sun, and to her surprise, old Speckles was running around with a brood of 12 new chickens trailing after her. "Everything seems all right at home," said Dorothy with a sigh of relief. "Now I wonder what Uncle Henry is doing." The scene in the picture at once shifted to Australia, where, in a pleasant room in Sydney, Uncle Henry was seated in an easy chair, solemnly smoking his briar pipe. He looked sad and lonely, and his hair was now quite white, and his hands and face thin and wasted. "Oh," cried Dorothy in an anxious voice, "I'm sure Uncle Henry isn't getting any better, and it's because he's worried about me. Ozma, dear, I must go to him at once." "How can you?" asked Ozma. "I don't know," replied Dorothy. But let us go to Glinda the Good. I'm sure she will help me and advise me how to get to Uncle Henry. Ozma readily agreed to this plan and caused the sawhorse to be harnessed to a pretty green and pink phaeton, and the two girls rode away to visit the famous sorceress. Glinda received them graciously and listened to Dorothy's story with attention. I have the magic belt, you know, said the little girl. If I buckled it around my waist and commanded it to take me to Uncle Henry, wouldn't it do it? I think so, replied Glinda with a smile. And then, continued Dorothy, if I ever wanted to come back here again, the belt would bring me. In that you are wrong, said the sorceress. The belt has magical powers only while it is in some fairy country, such as the Land of Oz or the Land of Ebb. Indeed, my little friend, were you to wear it and wish yourself in Australia with your uncle, your wish would doubtless be fulfilled because it was made in fairyland, but you would not find the magic belt around you when you arrived at your destination. What would become of it? Asked the girl. It would be lost, as were your silver shoes when you visited Oz before, and no one would ever see it again. It seems too bad to destroy the use of the magic belt in that way, doesn't it? Then, said Dorothy, after a moment's thought, I will give the magic belt to Ozma, for she can use it in her own country, and she can wish me transported to Uncle Henry without losing the belt. That is a wise plan, replied Glinda. So they rode back to the Emerald City, and on the way it was arranged that every Saturday morning Ozma would look at Dorothy in her magic picture, wherever the little girl might chance to be. And if she saw Dorothy make a certain signal, then Ozma would know that the little Kansas girl wanted to revisit the Land of Oz, and by means of the Gnome King's magic belt would wish that she might instantly return. Then, having agreed upon, Dorothy bade goodbye to all her friends. Tik-Tok wanted to go to Australia too, but Dorothy knew that the machine man would never do for a servant in a civilized country, and the chances were that his machinery wouldn't work at all, so she left him to Ozma's care. Billina, on the contrary, preferred the Land of Oz to any other country and refused to accompany Dorothy. The bugs and ants that I find here are the finest flavored in the world, declared the Yellow Hen, and there are plenty of them. So here I shall end my days, and I must say, Dorothy, my dear, that you are very foolish to go back into that stupid humdrum world again. Uncle Henry needs me, said Dorothy simply, and everyone except Billina thought it was right that she should go. All Dorothy's friends of the Land of Oz, both old and new, gathered in a group in front of the palace to bid her a sorrowful goodbye and to wish her long life and happiness. After much handshaking, Dorothy kissed Ozma once more, and then handed her the Gnome King's magic belt, saying, Now, dear princess, when I wave my handkerchief, please wish me to Uncle Henry. I'm awfully sorry to leave you, and the Scarecrow, and the Tin Woodman, and the Cowardly Lion, and Tik-Tok, and everybody. But I do want my Uncle Henry, so goodbye, all of you. Then the little girl stood on one of the big emeralds that decorated the courtyard, and after looking once again at each of her friends, waved her handkerchief. No, said Dorothy, I wasn't drowned at all, and I've come to nurse you and take care of you, Uncle Henry, and you must promise to get well as soon as possible. Uncle Henry smiled and cuddled his little niece close in his lap. I'm better already, my darling, said he. And that is the end of our book. There is still another book that is part of the Wizard of Oz universe, I guess. It's called The Land of Oz, and I will probably read that one next. But for now, my friends, we have reached the end. It is time to say goodnight. I never realized how political the Wizard of Oz was, but that is a discussion we can have another time. Any of you that are new here that are interested, I do have a Discord server. I also know how to use my damn computer. And there's the link to it. Good night, Beth. Thank you for joining us. That movie at the beginning. What can we say about that movie? I mean, I'm glad you were able to stop by. I'm glad you stuck around. It was a fun stream. I'm never watching that movie again, though. Never. So with that, I will go and find us a stream that we can raid. See who is online. Not very many people. So I'm gonna send you guys over to Pico Pigeons, because the pigeons are very soothing and relaxing and fun to watch. Good night, all of you. Thank you for joining. I'm sorry that you raided on a Be Right Back screen. That usually doesn't happen, but again, thank you for the raid, Zozie. Welcome to all the new people. We are going to go and raid Pico Pigeons. So, good night, everybody. Take care. I may stream tomorrow. You just never know with me what I'm gonna do. But we'll definitely be back with more of The Wizard of Oz. And if you stop by the Discord server, you can suggest books to read. You can also suggest movies to watch. Occasionally I do science, rarely, but it happens. So let's go check out some pigeons. Good night, guys. Love you all. Take care.